So I do want to, be respectful of everyone's time, especially since we have people calling internationally. Uh,
Yeah, the sun might be out, but there's other things to do.
Understood. Okay. Ms. Watson Lord, I thought I saw you. Yes, I see you. You prepared for
Yes,
the
I can.
minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We are going to call the meeting to order. The time is now 7:10 p.m. I want to thank everyone for joining us for our executive committee meeting for Community Board 9. I hope everyone has had and is having a wonderful holiday season. Happy Passover to all those celebrating. I wish a belated happy Easter to our district as well. For those who are celebrating, who are in the middle of Ramadan, we wish you well as well. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. We're going to try and be expeditious with our agenda, make sure we're able to go through and set up ultimately our agenda for the general board meeting coming up next week, Tuesday, the 26th. Okay, and with that, we are going to go on to item number 2 in the agenda, public commentary. Do we have any attendees, Dante, or anyone who signed up?
Are no attendees and no one's signed up for public comment.
Okay, very well. So we are going to move on in the agenda. If we do have any members of the community who come in later on, we'll see if they're, provide them an opportunity for public commentary, time permitting. All right, so we are going to go next to the committee chair check-in. All right, let's see. Let's start with, I'll tell you what, Carmen, because I know you're international. I know you're trying to catch some sun. We'll start with you. And Yakov, I think you said you had a time constraint as well. So then we'll go to you after that.
Thank you.
Right. Go ahead, Carmen.
Thank you. Well, the executive committee met on April 6th. The only item we had on the agenda was the street co-naming for Mr. Pierre. I won't say his first name because I know I'm going to screw it up and don't want to be disrespectful. It was a very touching meeting. We had over 20 community residents that are family, friends, childhood friends. We had former district leader Renee Collymore was also in attendance to basically give support for the family. We would tweet it to slides of Mr. Pierre during his growing up, his community activism, all of the contribution that he had made to his community. Tears were shed by everyone. It was very, very sad what occurred. So after listening to all of the supporters who spoke on behalf of Mr. Pierre, the committee voted unanimously to recommend that the general board approve the street co-naming, which is the southwest corner of Utica and Eastern Parkway, that they want to co-name in honor of Mr. Pierre. So by unanimous vote, Transportation Committee recommends that the board approve the street co-naming, which means, of course, that they will have to come to be invited to the general board meeting to also present to the general board.
Okay.
So that's my report.
All right. Thank you very much, Carmen. Are there any questions for the transportation chair?
Did I miss what block are we co-naming?
Southwest corner of Utica and Eastern Parkway.
Utica Eastern Parkway. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So that's who's this? That's Mealy's district, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. There was a letter of support from Councilwoman Crystal Hudson that accompanied the application. So I really didn't even look it up to see, but I believe it should be Darlene. Utica. Darlene usually picks up around that way.
Yeah, I didn't think Crystal went that far up.
Yeah,
sad. I didn't think she was
but
that.
Crystal, she did submit a letter of support for the co-naming.
Councilmember Hudson's district ends on Utica.
Oh,
Okay, so
Okay.
It-
they might be a border. Okay,
yeah, it's a
that's
border on one
interesting.
side. And
Yeah,
then-
the southwest corner is in Councilmember Hudson's district.
oh, okay, cool.
Okay, so that makes sense now.
Okay. All right. Uh, okay, just for administrative. So what materials are presented with respect to Mr. Pierre? So is there a packet that they present? Is it possible, do you already submit that or can we get that to the general board?
Yes, there was a package that was emailed to the board.
Okay.
It has a high school diploma. I mean, basically everything that you would need to know about his life, his short time, on earth. High school, graduation, citations, letters from relatives, friends. The attorney was also present at the meeting, Randy uh, Sandiford. What is it, Randy? Not Sandy Sanford Rubenstein. Lord, I didn't change the woman's name.
Stanford Rubin
Sanford Rubenstein.
is a
Yeah.
male attorney.
The attorney?
Yeah, he's the attorney for the family. Well, Sandy inherits all the cases against the city.
Oh, hold on. So there's a case against this. I'm sorry, refresh my memory.
Yeah.
Hold on. What exactly is going on?
That's the young men, the mentally ill young men that supposedly called the cops on himself and had like a little pink handle knife, and he was shot, like I think it was like what 7-10 times, something like that, by officers from the 71st precinct. So the attorney general is looking into the case, and the family did give notice to the city of lawsuit.
Carmen, when was he shot?
That was last year.
Was
It
it
was like early last year.
a year ago?
Yeah, they received a call of someone armed, and somehow or the other they traced the 911 call back to him, and the police call it suicide by police.
So, Fred, if I may comment, I think it's important we raise awareness about people that are struggling with mental illness. I think it's incredibly important we raise awareness, but I also think that when we vote, and if we vote, we should be very careful with how we frame it, that it should not be used in any lawsuits, that it shouldn't be connected to, that if the loss, this should not be used in any way to we shouldn't be part of this suit. We should be very, very careful in our language that it should be that we shouldn't put ourselves in a position where we're being used for lawsuits.
Well,
and-
the lawsuit never. The only reason we are aware of the lawsuit is known. It's been in the paper. Warren also inquired at Ms. Rubenstein. None of anything that's been presented with regards to people make any mention or any with the law. It's all about keeping his memory alive, um, based on the contribution that he made to his community, and also as a reminder to, they kind of wanted, like people with mental illness to be able to look at this street code naming, think about Mr. Pierre, and what happened to him, and the fact that mental illness is a serious thing. So even though he seemed to have been very happy, active young man who did a lot for the community, he had mental illness. It's my understanding from the articles in the paper and everything that he had left, or reportedly left, a suicide note in his apartment when he went out of the apartment, and call the police on himself, which is why they termed it by police.
It's vaguely, it's coming, it's coming. to
But
remember what
that
happened.
was not part of our discussion. We purposely, after Warren asked his question and it was answered, we steered clear away from that whole lawsuit issue because it's as far as I'm concerned, it has no bearing on the street code naming. That's something that they need to deal with as part of the law. So this is just to honor the young man's memory for those people in the community. And I believe they collected 150 signatures on petition from residents supporting the street code naming, and also indicated that if more signatures were needed, they will be more than happy to add more, collect more signature. But they, as at the city meeting, had collected 150, and it's part of the package. Signatures petition from community residents supporting.
Hey, it's Warren. I just want to make clear my question, and thank you, Carmen. Without giving an opinion on the actual issue, because, I don't know enough about it, my concern is that should the community board enter into something that's under litigation that may affect that litigation. That was the beginning and the end. Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, if I may ask one follow-up question to Carmen, why was the attorney there if this has nothing to do with the lawsuit? What purpose did he serve? Typically, street namings are requests from family and local organizations and neighbors. Why was Rubenstein at the meeting if this has nothing to do with the lawsuits?
He was speaking on behalf of the mother was on the meeting, but able to speak. Of course, his mother was on. Mr. Pierre was at the meeting. Mr. Rubenstein spoke on her behalf. The mother was too distraught to speak, so he just basically shared words on behalf of the mother and their desire for the street code naming. The reason the lawsuit came up is because Warren asked the.
All right, no, thank you. No, and thank you for that information as well. I have to say I do have some concerns, whereas because there's an active lawsuit with the city, I think what's probably fair is, all right, well, I think your committee's already looked at it and you've already voted on it, correct?
I mean, Fred, you can always touch base with Corp's counsel.
Yeah, and
and just mention exactly the street code naming came before the city. I don't see how it will have any play in the lawsuit because we are not assigning blame. As a matter of fact, we stayed totally away from any discussion in terms of police action or anything of that nature. It was just strictly about Mr. Pierre, his situation, his contribution to the community, all of his high school friends and people that grew up with him speaking about who he was, what a gentle person he was, and how caring. And it's just unfortunate that, he had mental illness. And that drove him basically to come out and, put himself in a situation where he came in contact with police. But having worked for the city, I do know I work for the comptroller, as a matter of fact, who is the one that takes claims against the city. You must serve notice on the city anytime you plan to sue
Right.
for any kind of action by any civil servant, whether it be a police or any other city employee.
And we know, and we know that that notice has been, well, I'm pretty sure that notice has been
Yeah,
served already,
well,
correct?
it has to be, there's a timeline, so it has to be served. Mr. Rubenstein indicating that they had actually served the notice on the city. Notice of claim must be served on the city in a timely fashion.
Yeah, I think that's my only question in terms of it puts us in a very weird place where the city agency does something, especially when there's a city action, an action being taken against the city at the same place. Um, I'm not sure where we fall in that. But with that being said, I think there's, this is probably something we would at least want to have a quick conversation with Corporation Counsel,
Mhm.
make sure if there's any issues or challenges that are presented. So at least that way, as a board, we'll be able to discuss that. So let's do that. Well, let's do that first. Dante, would you be able to send a communication to Corporation Counsel to see if we can get a conversation just to see with respect to that, so we can at least have the conversation or add that as part of the conversation when we address it at the board meeting.
Okay.
All right. So
Yeah, I mean, if they can give you a written opinion, that would be even better.
you're right. Yeah. So they'll probably do. Yeah. Well, it's hard to get a written opinion on anything, but at the very least, we can have that conversation and we can come back with that.
We have a new corpse counsel, so she might be more diligent than previous years.
Possible. All right. Okay. And if we can, so Dante, I just want to make sure, because of the nature of the issue, if we can make sure that the minutes and all the supporting documentation are sent out as quickly as possible. And well, actually sending all the materials out on what, Friday? Okay. That should probably be sufficient. So that's fine. So but I just want to make sure that the board does get all the materials that were presented, just so that way we can have a full conversation with respect to it when we meet on next week Tuesday.
All right.
Yeah, and the family needs to get notice of the meeting date.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. All right. Are there any last questions for the transportation chair?
I just want to follow up one more time. I think we all want to raise awareness and everything, and I think it's important. There's a tragic person passed away under tragic circumstances, but I also, Carmen mentioned that the language within the resolution, the street naming, is not going to have any material about the police department or anything. Just going to talk about his contributions to society. The language is really submitted by the city council, not by us. So I'm not sure. Can we reach out also? Can we just confirm that Crystal Hudson is on the same page as us with this issue? That, I mean, because really it's her. She's the one who writes the language, not the community board. We just give a letter of support. We have nothing to do with the actual language.
Yeah, and that might potentially be. I mean, well, one, to answer your question, yes, we can check in with Crystal's office as well to see what her perspective is, which also kind of again drives the point for me in terms of our vote, to approve. Our vote to approve, what implications does that have with respect to the entire process, between the co-naming, between any potential litigation or anything
Right.
else? I just want to have a good understanding of that.
I think
if we do
Crystal will
vote
get more insight. Once we hear from Crystal, we'll know more also.
and we can do that. We'll make sure we check in with her office. We'll do that. But thank you for that point, Yafa. Okay. All right then. Okay. Thank you very much, Carmen. All right. So Yakov, actually, you know what? Let's go on to you next then. So public safety.
Right. I'm going to try to be fast. First of all, there was a murder a few months ago in Empire in Kingston. They caught the individual, young man, 18 years old. They're still looking for two other people that were accomplices to the murder, but he was arrested and he's in custody. I think is a big deal. I mean, the individual was found lying on the street on Empire Boulevard. It was a pretty shocking incident. We also got a report from the community affairs on crime in the area. I think Mia documented, compared to last year. I think Mia took notes, and it will be in the minutes. As many of you are aware, Mike Beretta is back in community affairs, and we're happy to have him back. Sergeant Felicetti, who was the NCO sergeant. My understanding is he's no longer NCO sergeant. They're looking for somebody else. I'm not sure who the new NCO sergeant is going to be, but we've consistently had every meeting pretty much over the last year. We had a representative of law enforcement there updating us and weighing in on different issues. One of the most, I would say, charged issues the board has been dealing with, and we've had participation from dozens of community members, is the issue of 510 Flatbush Avenue. 510 Flatbush Avenue is a building that on the first floor is a sort of like I would say a bar. I don't remember exactly. I think initially their application may have said restaurant, but it's more like a bar-like atmosphere with dancing and music. And when they first came before the board, there was a lot of noise and a lot of complaining from the neighbors. They can't sleep. And we met multiple times, and we got the establishment. We encouraged the establishment to put in a lot of money into soundproofing it. And they did soundproof a lot of it. And there's a question now of facts. They've come now to revise their liquor license. They'd like to amend it to include dancing, because officially, I'm not really sure why, but based on the square footage and the way they applied, it did not include dancing. And they want to change it to include dancing. So when they came before the committee initially, we told them, finish your soundproofing, come back in a month. They came back this past meeting. And my position, I mean, we did not have quorum, but there were different positions at the meeting. My position was that as much as we want to encourage them to be good neighbors, if they are within the legal limits, that's all we could ask them, is that their sound should stay below the legal limits and not go above it. There were other, I think, some of the other committee members felt they want to look at how their original application was, if it changed since they originally applied. We could do that as well, but if I remember correctly, I looked at their application originally, and it said loud DJ music or live music. I think it had both. The district manager confirmed that before the next meeting. So what I suggested is that they claim to have a sound device on their speakers that will keep the sound below the legal limits. Meaning to say, they send people into the different apartments. They were able to get a feel of what is the loudest they could go in the bar, in the establishments. And based on that, they have a device that does not allow the sound to go higher than that. So I said, if that's true and that's accurate, then I think that for me is a very, I would say that's something that's very encouraging to me, because if they're within the legal limits, I feel that they're doing their part as an establishment, especially since they put in, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars to do this soundproofing. So what my suggestion is that somebody from the board go down there, maybe when they're either when they have an event or when they don't have an event, and let them show us the device and let us actually confirm that this device keeps everything below the legal sound. Physically confirm. Maybe we'll check it. Maybe we could coordinate with some of the tenants that they'll let us into the apartments. We'll give them a heads up notice, and we'll confirm that the loudest they're able to go in the closest apartment is within the legal limit. That way we'll have confirmation of this. I unfortunately am in Omaha until the 25th. So I'm wondering if the board office could maybe coordinate. I thought maybe Warren would be a good person to go. Maybe with somebody from my committee, and just get a good feel on what's going on. At one point, I brought in Jeffrey Davis to help mediate, and maybe he's a candidate. And some of the tenants felt that he was supporting the establishment too much, and maybe not. But I think he may be a good person to go down. But I think if we send a group down to really check it out to confirm that the sound is within the legal limits, that would be at least enough for me to know we could support their dancing amendments. So I guess, Dante, can you with me coordinate some sort of we could figure this out somehow, how to do it.
Yeah, that shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah, and I think everybody wants to work. There's a lot of frustration, but I think everybody wants to work this out and wants to get along. The question is how we get there. There's been a lot of anger, a lot of late night people have been woken up middle of the night, babies being woken up. So there's a lot of frustration, a lot of feelings. And I think as a committee and as a board, whatever direction we go with this votes, our job is really to encourage everybody to get along, and we should do our part in bringing the community together and not allowing this to become a conflict. And I think we've done that. We took it from a conflict, and people, they're talking to each other, the owners of the establishment and some of the tenants. They're emailing each other. They're sort of, I don't want to say they're on good terms, but there's a lot of conversation and communication that was not going on before we got involved. And I think that the committee and the board deserves credit for doing so much to bring the community together.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Well, actually, let's do this. So that's 510 Flatbush Avenue. Are there any other applications that are before the board at this time?
They are. Their application is before the board. It's not it's like an amendment to allow dancing in their establishment. And they would like us to vote on it at the next meeting.
Okay, so they currently have a liquor license.
They do.
What kind of license do they currently have?
I believe they have a full license.
They have a full license? Okay. All right. What are there any, so are there complaints from NYPD, fire, any other issues?
So there have been complaints from NYPD and from the environmental protection from the city. But what I'm saying is, so again, since it was a process going on for 6 months, so the complaints are really neighbors complaining about the noise, the issue of noise, not crime or anything like that. Really noise complaints. And then they brought down the health department. You know how it is. Once the city gets involved, everybody gets involved. But now, the last time the city came down and they measured, they were below the legal limits. So they're saying that they've put in technology and other equipment and other protections that will restrict their establishment and doesn't allow them to go above the legal limits.
Okay.
Really a matter
Excuse me,
of
it's
sound.
Warren.
That's really the question here.
Hi, it's Warren. I'll take up Yaakov's offer along with Christian and Dante to go see what's going on there.
All right, so Warren, I have 1% battery. Let's talk before you go, and we'll coordinate. I think we have to coordinate with everybody, with the neighbors, with the owner. So we'll do. It should be sort of
No,
a
we'll do
joint
it, that's all.
project.
No, but I think we should take a look and see what's going on. That's all.
I think and Warren, I'm just going to ask you, because we did 6 months of work here, that we don't start. We just one purpose, one goal. Does
No,
this divide
Yaakov,
below or not? That's it.
Yaakov, I'm not for or against, but let's just hold the people to what they're saying.
No, I don't want. Okay, but that's not what I think. At this point, I think we just have to check. I want to limit it to the sound. If it's legal, if it's below the legal.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's it. That's the only thing I'm gonna look at is the sound. But I also want the support of Dante and Christian with me, because, I could be a little hard of hearing. Okay?
All right, no problem.
All right.
Okay, so listen, so Dante, so Carmen, I see you, and Christian, I see you as well. So we'll take your questions 1 second. So Yakov, so before we move, so let's just, how many applications are going to be before the board coming up, and are there any others?
There's a few renewals, and this.
Renewals in this?
Three.
Three renewals.
Three renewals?
I believe only two of them appeared before the committee. There were no issues with the renewals.
Okay. Oh, okay. And there were no issues. All right then. Okay. So, Carmen, I know your hand is up, and then Christian will take you.
Yeah, I'm on low battery, so if I get disconnected, I'm not hanging up.
Okay. So very quickly, Carmen, the floor is yours. Carmen, can you hear us? Carmen? Okay. I'm not sure if she's having an audio issue. Christian, let's go with you, and then we'll come back to Carmen. She's better. Christian, go ahead. You have the floor.
Mine was more just to share a readout of the committee, but I will add that I'm happy to be helpful. However, I can be helpful Warren would like me to join him and Dante, I'm happy to do so. It's an establishment that I've been to many times before, not to go drinking or dancing or anything like that, but they do yoga there as well. So happy to.
Go for the yoga. Yeah.
Happy to be helpful if I can be helpful.
No, absolutely appreciate it.
Maybe also Yankee Pearson is on the committee as well. Maybe so you'll be briefed. If there's any questions of what happened in the past, they'll be available. I don't know where he is, Pastor. He may be out of town, but
Okay, we'll coordinate that. Carmen, are you there? Are you able to speak? Yeah, I'm not sure. It looks like Carmen might be having an issue. Okay, all right. So all right. So Dante, you have all the information for the applications, correct? All right.
Yes.
Then. So
Yeah.
All right. So we'll take those. Probably push those. Yeah. So all right. But there is, so just to make sure I'm still clear as well. So there is no vote from the committees from the committee on these applications.
no, we did not have quorum, and we'll talk about it. We have to figure this out because we're starting to struggle with quorum at the meetings.
Okay, no, absolutely. Thank you for that point. But and let me just make this notification for all the chairs as you're present. So if you are having issues with members who have been chronically absent, please note if they've missed the majority of the meetings or what the number is. Make the recommendation in terms of if you would like them removed. We will process and get them off so that way at least you can work for these next 2-3 months for the board. I definitely understand that it's been an issue that's been going on for a while. Let us know and we will assist you in terms of lightening your load and enabling you to at least have quorum and conduct your meetings. But thank you very much for that, Yakov. And we'll take up the items when we set the agenda. Okay, let's see, continuing on down the line. I see our Chair of Education and Library. All right, she looks ready to go. There we go.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Melanie.
No, yeah, we can't hear you.
No. Check on your computer. They might be muted on the computer itself or your phone. All right. Still don't have you. All right. So listen. So we'll come right back to you then. Okay. So you just keep messing with that. So as soon as you have access, just raise your hand. We'll get you right after that. Okay. Moving along. I see our housing chair. Oh. No. She's still. Housing chair. Beverly, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Do you have a report for housing?
I just powered it off.
I heard a voice.
That was Melanie's voice.
Oh, okay. Melanie, you there? No, it looks like we're still having some trouble. All right, so Beverly, let's go. So let's go ahead, Beverly. Let's go on, and Melanie, we'll get right back to you afterwards. Just keep working on that.
Okay, so at our last week's housing meeting, we discussed a couple of things. I did a site visit to 1180 President, and we met with the family, one of the families that still remain on the property. And we spoke with them about their situation. How did it start? How long have they been there? We contacted elected officials and they're working on it now with DOB and DHCR. We also talked about cease and desist and some modifications that we would like to make to it. But the largest part of our meeting was about our upcoming affordable housing forum. Fred, you're frowning. Can you hear me?
Sorry?
You're frowning. Can you hear me?
No. I'm looking down at my notebook.
Okay. I'm just checking. So we anticipated doing it in April, but we don't have the affordable housing speakers in place yet. So we will be moving it to May, but it is going to be virtual. we still have remaining outreach to do. And we were also seeking to have partners, and the committee voted on having ULURP as a partner because they felt when it comes to housing, ULURP is a significant part of it. A vote was taken. That's how ULURP ended up being a partner. So we're still working on seeing if ULURP wants to do that. So that hasn't been confirmed. Patricia and I are still going back and forth, and I'm sure at some point she's going to put it in front of her committee. So let me see. Cease and desist, Affordable Housing Forum, 1180 president, and we also talked about as members of housing. Once again, what is our job? What is our responsibility to the community? And we talked about how the members saw it. We are ambassadors of housing. That's why we are learning all these things that appear to be not as significant as so that's why we're talking about policy. That's why we're visiting 1180 president. That's why we're talking about doing an affordable housing forum, because part of housing, when you're a member, you're an ambassador, especially if you're on Community Board 9. You're an ambassador. If one of your neighbors and I stated this as well, if one of your neighbors are struggling with a housing issue, as a housing committee member, you should be able to assist them. So all of that was part of the conversation of our housing meeting.
Okay. Question. Actually, if for the benefit of the chairs and the board, the exec, what are exactly the issues that are happening at 1180 president?
So 1180 president is a building where it has a total of 20 apartments. 17 people were told to move out. 3 families remain. The premise under which they were asked to leave was the landlord or the owners. I'm not quite sure if they're the same or different, but either way, they wanted to initially begin renovation on the kitchen and the bathroom. DOB found that they also need to address the roof, but the management company told the tenants they also want to do something to the partitions in their apartment, which are the walls. So that's what calls for the tenants to be relocated. Through the last week, I've had conversations with the organizer at the council member's office, who's been speaking to Department of Buildings, and the last 3 families are going to have to move because the permit that was filed involved partitions, but also a work order was placed on that building by DOB because they did not do a tenant's rights. They didn't hand in all the necessary information for their permit, and they did not cover the tenant's rights aspect of their permit. So tenants don't really know what next steps are. The tenants who remain in the building, nor do the 17 families who vacated the building. None of them know what next steps are. So DOB is requiring the building manager, the building owner, whichever that is, to come back, bring them all the necessary documentation that they've requested before they can continue construction.
Okay. All right then. Okay, thank you very much for that. All right.
Fred, may I just chime in there to address what Beverly just said? I just want to say that it is Beverly. Oh man. Oh, sorry. You guys need to look at this thing very closely, because our office been receiving a whole lot of complaints with landlords asking tenants who've been staying at the apartment for a while, asking them to leave because they need to make renovation in the apartment, and they don't get to come back. They don't allow them back.
Right.
So it is something that you really have to look into. Our office have been looking for this, and it's have been. I went to Saratoga in Bronxville, and they have a whole lot of apartments over there, and they're asking the tenants to live. And when one of the organizers, when they went to them and asked them what happened, and apparently some of those buildings, they are NYCHA buildings, maybe the ones you're talking about, maybe they're privately owned, but even in the NYCHA buildings, what they're asking them to live, and apparently NYCHA lists out those buildings to those private people. They are renovating the place, and they have a 10-year lease, and they're asking the people to live so they could fix, and they're not allowing them back in. So we're getting a lot of complaints. So you have they have to be very careful, because a lot of those people who have left, they're not gonna come back. They're not gonna allow them
and
back because they want to.
That was one of the things that thanks, Francesca. That was one of the things that I made sure Jeremy understood when he was speaking with DHCR and DOB, because there is, especially in rent stabilized housing, and this building was built in 1915. I'm surprised they're not rent controlled, but I have to look more into that. But either way, these tenants don't know anything about retaining your apartment for $1. They don't know. They have been asked to vacate to a new building that the management company owns, but some of the tenants are saying that building that they've been relocated to is worse than the building that they came from, and they're paying their standard rent. There are a lot of things about this situation that are, one, not heard of in when everybody's doing the right thing, and two, can leave the residents open, just like was stated with NYCHA. That includes all of them. It leaves tenants open to losing their apartment. And so with DOB in it and DHCR in it, it still means that there needs to be someone in that group. And Francesca, if that's you in Brownsville or whatever, make sure that there's someone there speaking on behalf of the residents, because DOB is doing what DOB does. DHCR is doing what DHCR does. But a lot of the tenants are not aware of what their rights are.
Exactly.
So between the tenants' between the tenants' rights books and the advocacy of all of us, we need to make sure, and it doesn't mean we have to know everything. We just have to be there to ask the question, to make people look, to make people ask, because NYCHA is being privatized. Everybody bear in mind about that. Privatization means that these families are being relocated, and so the apartments are being given to private owners, private developers who are wanting to make money off of what used to be affordable housing. 1180 President, same thing. And had a community member not reached out, it would have kind of just faded into the woodwork. But now all buildings that are older, the rooms are huge, and we're going, why would somebody want an old building? Have you been in an old building? Those rooms are huge. Landlords are taking them and splicing them up. They're making a one bedroom, 2 and 3 bedrooms. So those people are being preyed upon. So all of us can be advocates, just like Francesca is experiencing in Brownsville. We're experiencing in 1180 President. All of us can be advocates for that. That was just my point when, we were talking about it with 1180 and what Francesca, I just want to add on to what she said as well. And she's right.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. All right. So I guess actually, are there any questions for Beverly? I have a couple of comments, but are there any questions for Beverly with regards to the committee?
I don't have a question, but I'm just asking her to just keep a close eye, and then if you can inform me, please, so we can look into this.
It's not a problem.
We need the areas, everyone to come together, because it's something we've had persons who came, they asked them to leave their homes, they never left, and when they came back, their bathroom was knocked down. There was knocked down. Some persons had holes behind their stove. and they were not able to cook or whatever. So, and it is something, as you rightfully said, they want the people out because it's just a money thing so that they can get more rooms and just rent them top dollars. So a lot of those persons, they need to come out and they need to encourage other people, if those things are happening in the buildings, to come out and just form a coalition so we can handle those things, and let me know so I can take it into the necessary people to look into it.
Since NYCHA that you're dealing with, Francesca, may I suggest that you partner with the Attorney General and people like that, because NYCHA has its own little thing. That's what makes so many people unlevel, because so many NYCHA is being preyed upon right now in a huge way. But those of us in rent stabilization, we know what the rules are there. But NYCHA has its own little niche. So
they do,
you know,
because the gentleman whom I spoke with, what he said, that when he approached the persons who are in charge of the renovating and the changes, they said, hey, we are just listening from NYCHA, and when we have a 10-year lease and we are following NYCHA's rules. And what type of rules? So NYCHA never asks persons to leave their apartments to renovate and ask them to come back. So
it's
there
not
is
unless they're
something
renovating
fishy.
the apartment.
Yeah, something fishy is happening, and it needs to be addressed.
Okay, so and along those lines, first of all, thank you very much, Fran, and thank you very much, Beverly, for the information and the actions you've taken so far. What I would ask for the housing committee to do, typically when I look at this, is there's two parts of what the board can do. There is the policy question, which I think that's where the committees are particularly of use, because they identify what the larger issues are, and will create recommendations in terms of what the steps, what steps the board should be taking. So part of that might be an engagement with the local electeds around housing access. It might be about greater education by the part of the agencies. So that would be one of those things I would ask for you and the committee to consider in terms of drafting up what those larger policy considerations are that CB9 should be advocating for.
So you mean not just for 1180, you mean the broader housing picture?
Yeah, for the district, because this is not just 1180.
Okay.
There's other buildings in this district that is going to happen. Unfortunately, this is going to happen. It's happening in Brownsville. It's happening here. And 1180 is probably not the last building it's going to happen to. So this is the reason why we want to kind of look at this and start engaging people, the right agencies and the right elected officials as well with respect to that. So I'd ask if, kind of craft what that statement is and what some of the recommended actions are you're looking for. So this way, it can come through the committee, can come to the board, we can discuss it. And as a board, once we vote on it, now we can start actually, start engaging, and, we can use the district office and we can start engaging and doing those kinds of things. If some of the activities you recommend are those kinds of forums, I heard you mention the housing forum. That's great.
I'm sorry.
If there's a greater tenants' rights, activity, outreach that we want to do, I'm not sure what the best way is, but maybe that's some of the conversation we should have. How do we do that? But I also want to make sure we're also continuing to steer some of the complaints and the issues to the district office, because it's always good when they have that data, because then we can start quantifying what it looks like. So it's 1180, it's this building, it's that building, it's these landlords or a particular management company, or we can start, getting the information that will be helpful in terms of now how do we start addressing it and who do we need to go to address it.
Oh, I mean, I don't mean, I didn't know there was a misunderstanding. I'm not taking complaints. What I'm just focused on is 1180 right now. I'm not setting housing up to be a recipient of housing complaints. That's not what I'm doing. Is that what you heard?
No, not so much that's what I'm hearing. What I'm saying is that's what I would like
Just
for the
wanted to check.
committees, for the committee to look at it from that perspective. So yeah, all that paperwork, a lot of the paperwork stuff, or that, the documentation of chasing the complaints, definitely something that I would like the district office to kind of take the lead on that, because that gives us the data and we can track those conversations in terms of this is where it's going. These are the next meetings, and we can, we can track where that goes with that. Now for the forums that you're talking about, I think they're a great idea. The only thing we want to do is
affordable housing forum, only one.
Affordable housing? Okay.
Yeah, only one.
Did you vote on that already? So did you already?
Yes, we did vote on it.
So the affordable housing don't have a date yet.
And it's going to be virtual. We don't have a date. We
Okay,
just know now it was going to be a Wednesday and it's going to be at 6 o'clock. Those are the only votes.
a Wednesday at 6 p.m. date TBD. All right, so here's
Right.
what I would
Because we're
want to
waiting
do.
on our virtual partner, our possible partner.
Okay, that's fair enough. If you've got the other logistics, what I would want to do is if we can approve it here, because then we would bring it. Excuse me, sorry. We would bring it to the full board. Let the full board approve it. The full board can approve it, so then that way it's like, listen, let's just rock with this, and once you get the details, we'll just publicize it from the board.
Okay.
All right, so we'll do that. So we'll keep that as an item that we'll vote on for the agenda, or place that on the agenda. All right, so the Affordable Housing Forum. Okay, are there any other questions for Beverly? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Beverly. And we'll put that on
You're
the
welcome.
agenda. We'll create the agenda. Melanie, how we doing? We good? She's calling in. Oh, there we go. Oh, hold on.
I hear you.
Oh, okay. Got you now. Hey, Chair of Education Library.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for your patience. I'm talking laptop, cell phone. We just find a way to make one, don't we? Thank you so much for your patience, and good evening, everyone. The Education Committee met the first week of April, and we were happily joined by the Brooklyn Public Library. They gave us a very extensive update on what's happening at the library and different events that are taking place. So I definitely encourage everyone, if you can, go back and look on YouTube to see the very extensive presentation that they gave. I will tell you that they, not only made us aware of upcoming events, but they let us know that, throughout COVID, we were blessed to have all three of the libraries that are within our district open, whereas many other districts did not have that same situation, in their favor. So we have the Crown Heights Library, we have the Schenectady Library, and then we have the Central Library over on Grand Army Plaza, which are all still accessible to us. Yet the Schenectady Library is actually going to be undergoing major construction. And the library is also looking for our support as they endeavor to undergo this project, which is certainly in the millions of dollars. And as an entity that is a safe space for many in our community, as well as goodness, a very important infrastructure for our families and our individuals and our community as a whole. I want us to make sure that we, again, look back at that presentation and that we be able to move forward and perhaps, considerably look at their request for us to give them a letter of support for the construction that will be taking place for the library. The construction is taking place mostly because the Schenectady Library is over 100 years old, so there's different things that need to be put in place. In addition, through different surveys that were put in place over some time and getting feedback from the community, it was found that, community members wanted new space. So the Department of Design, we're also joined in that meeting, which is why I'm reiterating for those of you that can go back to YouTube to watch it. You can, but I certainly also asked them some questions that some of you might have been, wondering about. Like, for example, was the construction actually necessary? And, they did kindly answer those questions, and mainly it was because it is over 100 years old, and community members did want larger space. I understand the Schenectady Library had a very small, they had apparently one meeting room, if I'm getting that correctly. So they needed more space. And I believe our Central Library is going to be continuing more construction as well. So that's one thing. Another thing is that the Education and Library Committee is having our Jackie Robinson Day, and we're very excited about, on Saturday, April 30th. So you'll see more of the marketing to go out soon. Excuse me, but it's going to be at the Jackie Robinson School, 46 McKeever, and it's going to be taking place from from noon till 4 o'clock p.m. So it's really exciting. We have different partners. Of course, all 3 schools within the building are very active in that particular event, and different, like surprises. For example, batting cage. I don't know if I should have even told y'all that yet, but we're excited about it. And the subcommittee meets every Friday. So if there's, anyone that would like to join in that committee and get, additional updates or support, definitely you're welcome to be able to join those meetings, and we can put that information out, for anyone that would like further information as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Are there any questions for the Education Library Chair? Okay, seeing none. All right, so now I did hear one item. Now, there's a letter of support that was requested, or was that for the library?
Yes, for the library itself. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so did the committee vote on that? Did they vote to approve a letter of support?
I'm sorry.
Did the committee vote to approve a letter of support?
We did not discuss it at that meeting. At that meeting, we went quite over time. So it was more of an informational for us to gain the information. And so there was no vote from the committee.
Okay. Is there a time frame in terms of when they would want that letter of support from the board?
I wasn't given a time frame. I can certainly circle back and ask them. And I don't know, with permission, maybe just garner what that may look like via email from members.
Okay, or if it's even particularly even if it's from BPL, from that branch, in terms of what they're looking for, in terms of the support, if they can provide some information as well with regards to the project itself, so that would be helpful. So it would help us in drafting.
They just said they would be willing to do so. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, if I could ask if you could just check in with Dante on that, so that way we can loop that in, and hopefully we can get that drafted and approved by the board.
All right, thank you so much. Forgive me, I'm traveling, but I appreciate you.
Everybody's on the move except me. No. No. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay. Let's see. Continuing. I see our second vice chair, Francisco Leopold, also chair, who serves double duty as chair of Health and Social Services. Do you have a report?
Thank you so much, Chair. Just before I go into my report, I'm just requesting for our DM, if you could look into, based on what's happening in our community, I would appreciate very much if you can put together a forum, a Know Your Rights forum for the community, and we could have the CB8, CB9, and 17 to work together, so we can have a know when it comes to housing, and what your rights are, and discrimination in housing in our community. So something we could talk about but I can't really work with you per se since I'm on the board. So something I'd like you to look into, to put together with the other boards, and because it's affecting all the districts, and I will have one of my colleagues to contact you so we could make it happen. Okay, I have already spoken to my director about it, and as well as the deputy commissioner, and then she gave me the go ahead, and then we can. So one of my colleagues, she lives right there. She lives right on Bedford Avenue, by next to Mega Evers, so she would be able to work with you with that. Okay, thank you. We met on April 7th. And one of these things that we discussed, I'm looking to, because I know a lot of our senior centers, they were closed, and some of them partially open. But some of the seniors, they would receiving some sort of service, but not the full service needed. So I'm looking to bring in all the directors of the senior centers to have a meeting with them to see what type of service they're lacking, what has been offered to the seniors. And also, I know for sure Christopher Bledman, they do have some sort of social service that come in for the seniors, but I want to find out as to what other social services they have coming into the rest of it, because we have the senior centers and we have the recreational centers as well. So to get a better understanding as to, since COVID, what have been happening with them. I have called several of the centers, and the only ones that I have been able to connect with was Christopher Bledman and Finnemore. And Finnemore, Dante, I would really like you to help me when it comes to them, because as we know that Finnemore, and it is a struggle, we've been trying to work with them over the years, and they are not registered with DFTA. So therefore, they've been really striving on discretionary funding. Borough Hall used to help them, as well as Council Member Matthew Eugene. So these are the two areas that they were getting the monies from, and whatever monies that was left back from the budget at Borough Hall, then Eric used to send them a little something to help out. Per year, they used to get like $18,000 to operate on, and then they have a staff, and sometimes they didn't have, it wouldn't have enough food. I did connect them with my church so that they can get some food stuff sent to them, but sometimes when the church do connect them, they never had transportation to pick up the food. So it was really hard on them. The person who's Joan, who runs the place, sometimes she had to take monies from her pocket. So I'm really looking forward for us to help her. When Amy was here before she left, when she sat with them, tried to put a proposal together for them, but she had no idea as to what she was doing, where to go, where to run, and it was just on us really to get things going for them. So I'm really looking forward for us to help them and to see what's going on. So this is something I will undertake for the month of May, to have a meeting with them. We continue to work with Jackie Love, Granville's Hand, who has taken the seniors at the Carroll Gardens. So she's been meeting with them, and she's collaborating with CBN, and it is something that she called me, she spoke to me about, that she wanted to work with CBN, and unfortunately the days and hours that she's meeting on a Friday, and the times that she's meeting at work. So I know, Dante, you did say you've been there. I think that the staff has been over there and worked with them. So I just want to thank you for that. And if you could continue just to, schedule that we can, somebody from the office, because you don't really have a staff, to just go there and represent the board. That's what she's asking for, whatever way that we could support them. Let's continue to do that. She's also at our last meeting, she's organizing for them to go to BAM, and then for transportation will be provided by she's coordinating with the 71st precinct to take them to BAM. And with Beverly, I have to coordinate with Beverly for Ebbetsfield. The last time I spoke to one of the ladies who came to my meeting, she said that the center was still closed. And I know that I spoke to Ms. Love concerning the food distribution at Ebbetsfield. So I know some things have been happening. They told me that there were persons I was trying to organize with Warren. And I know Warren was at the meeting also, so that they can get fresh vegetables and fruits and stuff. And they told me, yes, they do. So Beverly, I think the lady whom I spoke with, I really don't remember her name. I have to check my notes. And she told me to liaison with you to see what type of services they have, what type of services we can bring. I don't know. We know we have a new variant now coming up, so I don't know as to when you're thinking of opening the center at Ebbetsfield. So that is something that we will meet on the side to talk about. concerning the seniors over there. We spend much time discussing the wellness fair, and I know that Mia, there were some persons who were there. They give some names that I missed from our last meet. So Mia did take them some of those names, and I did ask her to add those names to the list that I had already sent to the board. So I know that the intern, I spoke to Mia concerning that today, asking her whether the intern has started contacting those people. So she told me to touch base with you, Dante or Caleb, to see if the intern have started connecting and how many persons that she have connected with. Also, Metro Plus, there was a young lady from Metro Plus, and then she said that she can try to, because I think it's one thing that's very important, which Warren did mention, that it would be a good thing. It would attract a whole lot of people, just as we had last year, to have food, distribution of food. So I'm trying to see if we can get the food that, because right now this is very scarce, very hard to get the quantity of food that we had the last time. So I'll be working with the young lady from Metro Plus, Jackie Love, as well as Karen, to see how much food that we can get. So it was the chicken, we had the chicken and the turkeys and the fruits and the fresh vegetables, as well as the dry food. So if we can get that, that would be great, so that we can do a distribution. So I'm working with one group in health as well when it comes to the health stuff that is supposed to be bringing. So I'm coordinating with them as to what type of service, and I'm also working, the young lady who did, people are asking for the healthy cooking, the life healthy cooking. So I'm not sure as to how that will work, because the young lady who did the presentation, she had a baby, so I'm not sure if she'll be able to be there. But I'm working with those persons to see how that can work. I know we spoke about Bouncy House. I don't know, Dante, if that's part of, if we have a budget to get some sort of attraction for the kids while the parents are walking around doing stuff, that we can have a bouncy house for them. And then, and also, if last year we spoke about having a tent, and where some seniors could come, I wanted to have the podiatrist there and somebody to do some sort of a massaging. So we are looking, and I know that Mr. Almanar is there, so Mr. Almanar will be able to help me in that area as well, to see who we can get to do the massaging. So this is basically it. Our main focus really is to get as many vendors as we can. I think we had close to 30 last year. So if we can get more, that's cool. But that's what we got now.
Thank you very much, Fran. Are there any questions for the Health and Social Services Chair?
I got the question.
Sure, go ahead.
Francisco,
Okay.
what's the date of are you looking at for the wellness fair?
It's March. It's May. Did you change the date, Dante?
She's talking about the community fair, and the date is June.
It's the community fair.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, that's why
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
No. That's integrated as part of the district fair we're doing.
Because the community fair is not in June, Dante.
Repeat that.
Is the community fair in June? I thought I saw something say it had went to June.
Yes, the community fair is June 4th.
Right on.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was, yes, it was May previously, but it's changed now. Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you very much. Good. I just want to make sure I had the right information.
Go ahead, Beverly.
I just want to ask a question. The rights thing that you're doing, is that for healthcare rights or tenants' rights?
The right is not healthcare, it's tenants. Know your rights from Commission on Human Rights.
Oh,
New York
knowing,
City-
not
New York
housing
City
rights,
Commission on
knowing your
Human
rights
Rights.
is human rights.
Hmm?
Knowing your human rights, not housing rights.
It's covered housing. It covers housing. So that's what it causes: discrimination in housing, discrimination in employment and public accommodation, religion. It's across the board. Yeah.
And you're going to partner with the housing committee?
Definitely, we have to.
Okay. Just asking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So Fran, are there any action items that we need to vote on or need to be voted on by the board?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Keep us posted. Let us know, when you're getting closer to having that, if you have dates or times, just so that way we can make sure that we can, notify the board and get if there's any approvals necessary. So whenever you have that, let us know.
Dates and time for?
For the Human Rights Forum.
Okay. All right, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we are going to move along. We're going to go to Mr. Almanor for Parks, Recreation, Culture. Mr. Almanor, are you there? Okay, it looks like he may have stepped away. We'll
Yes,
come
I
back.
am. Hello.
Yep,
Can
there he is.
everyone hear me?
Yep, we got you now.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here listening. So thank you for. I have a very, very, very short report because what we've been struggling with meeting for the last two meetings, so I haven't been able to take any vote whatsoever. However, what we have was general discussion about what we may plan to do. Hopefully, when we get the quorum, we'll be able to vote on some of the items. I think our meeting on Thursday was only Thursday. I think it was unfortunate. I think we should have canceled that meeting because of religious observance. So we only had 4 people present. So I thought about that, but so we could have done that. But we're talking about the parent this child is on the values an institution that we've been interacting of, and we were told this on press. So they give us an idea of in.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Almanor.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's mine. I think you're breaking up a little bit.
All people to
Yeah, Mr. Almanor, you're breaking up.
So we will hope
Mr. Almanor, yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
We have recommend her for presentation at the general for this outreach, and that the result. We end up very early, so we didn't have 3 or 4 people.
Mr. Almanor, can you hear us? Mr. Almanor, can you hear us? He can hear us because his audio is bad. He can't hear us.
Yes, I can.
Can you hear
yes,
us?
I can.
You are breaking up. Your audio is really bad.
I may have to turn. Yes, I can.
Your
I'm
audio
gonna
is very
stop
bad.
my
We
video.
hardly
Maybe
hear
that will
you.
help. Is this better? Hello?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
This
better
is
so
better?
far. Continue. Yeah.
Just might gotta start all over
So
again.
that this is looking forward to
Yeah, I think we lost you again, Mr. Almanor. Yes, listen, definitely some technical issues. Well, let's try this. Do you have any action items for us? Oh, okay. Do you have any action items for the board for this meeting coming up? Mr. Almanor, can you hear me? I think we might have lost him. Okay, that's fine. So if anything, we'll come back when we're setting the agenda. If he has any action items, he can put it on at that time. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on. If we can go to Ms. Moses, are you there? You have a report for Euler?
Yeah.
Okay, I used to say you for the very last, but you know we're changing up this year.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I could just say not too much has been going on, you know, with the ULUP. Basically, nothing really, no really serious movements of any kind that we know of. But the attendance so far has been excellent. I mean, everyone has been showing up. So there's been like no problems there. We will
Just
be
bragging
submitting,
there, huh?
yeah, we will be submitting our minutes. They're a little late because of the, you know, the holiday, but we'll get them in this week. As for the end of the year community fair that's going to be held on June 4th, Esteban will be our coordinator. So I would like y'all to please keep him in the loop. And one of the reasons that, you know, I chose a coordinator because I'm not sure if I'll be back or not. Who knows? You know, so, you know, I don't know if I'll still be a board member or not, but it will still go on. So he will be our coordinator. And our next meeting is scheduled to be held on May 10th. And at that time, we're going to have a guest from Cambridge Housing Ventures. Now they're going to be doing a presentation, and it's really for an overview of 291 units of affordable and supportive housing. I think that location is 329 Clarkson Avenue. This is really state funded, but however, they're going to be presenting. So anyone that wants to come, definitely come in, especially housing. I'm not exactly sure what, you know, what they're going to be talking specifically about. I know that the affordable housing is supposed to be for homeless, and the youth that are aging out of foster care, and formerly incarcerated individuals. I'm sorry. So also, we still have not, I mean, it's almost like June, May, and we still have had no representative from elected officials. And I find that to be very strange. This is the first time I've been on this board for I don't even know how many years. And we've always had someone come in. I don't understand why there's no one. And Dante, I guess this is for you. I'm hoping that you send some letters out so that it would be in writing. Because I don't understand why it's almost the end is not one representative. That's very, very strange. So I would definitely like a follow-up on that. And if you had letters that you sent out, can you send me a copy of them, please?
Yes, yes,
Now,
I would definitely send out an email to each of our elected officials.
oh, you haven't done it yet?
In terms of their participation, no, I have not.
They usually send a representative. And the reason is because I'm having a lot of people that are showing up, you know, at our ULUP meetings, and they're talking about different projects that's happening in their community. In other words, it's nothing like that we can do about certain things in terms of how the buildings are going up. In other words, someone had a brownstone and then I think 2 or 3 stories was built on top of it. But however, there's still, you know, I mean, it's nothing that we really can do because they're still in line with the zoning. And so there's a lot of things that are happening that they're basically coming into our meetings to complain about. And again, no representative or elected officials. I hope Parks can come back in because there was an issue that evidently it belongs to Parks in reference to the Prospect Park Alliance. They're non-for-profit
I'm back.
Of that 27 acres. I don't know if that representative came in for a presentation with Parks or not. But my understanding that was supposed to happen because they originally was supposed to come in to do a presentation with us, but they canceled and someone said that they went into Parks. And the concern that our committee had was the 27 acres at the northeast corner of Prospect Park. And evidently there's $40 million funding from the city. So I don't know if that took place or not, that presentation took place or not. So I think that's about it.
Okay. All right. Beverly, I'll get you 1 second. Hold on. So thank you very much for that. With regards to the elected officials, definitely not to excuse them. And Dante, I'm sure will follow up with them with respect to making sure that they're active. But there's a lot of, just from the, off conversations I've had, I know a number of them are still ramping up staff. They're still ramping up staff and trying to figure out and make sure they have representation for the different meetings they have. But Dante, please just reach out, just make sure you confirm with them that, listen, this is the meeting schedule. These are the committees, and that, you need to make sure you have some kind of representation. If they got to rotate through their offices, that's fine. But they need to make sure that, going forward, that they do have that there, because we have board members and residents who have questions about some of the things that are going on. We need those people there. Okay.
And just before I close, the only reason I brought it up because it's not, to me, if you're taking care of business, most things are put in writing, and that's when people respond. If you call them up like we're friends, nobody may show up. So I would like it to be formal like it normally has been. Thank you.
Understood. No, absolutely. Thank you for raising that point. Beverly, I see her hand. I'm sorry. Beverly?
Two things. Hi, Patricia. How are you?
Hi.
There was a lady who showed up, and I want to say she came to housing. I want to say I spoke to her in ULERP, and a lady where she was having an issue where they were building a building next door to her house, and they were walking on her property.
Yes, she came to our meeting.
Okay. Has her situation been resolved yet? To your knowledge?
No, not to my knowledge.
Yeah, because I haven't heard from her
We were
either.
aware of it, and I'll check with Mia because we were supposed to do a follow-up, and I think they might have sent me some information. I'm not really sure, but anyway, I'll do the follow-up with Mia. But yes, she did come to our meeting.
Okay. Great. Secondly, could you just?
I'm sorry, Beverly. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What happened was they said it wasn't an issue for ULUP, that it was an issue for housing. That's why it was referred to you. That's why she showed up at your meeting.
Okay, so maybe she was the person.
It wasn't a ULUP issue.
Okay, because she did mention ULUP to us, and we went through her situation, and we were supposed to find out if she had. Okay, thanks, Patricia. We were supposed to find out if she had an agreement, because a lot of times when someone's doing construction that close, there is an agreement, a contract between the homeowner that's right next door with the developer that's right next door. Sometimes there isn't, but sometimes there is. And before we move forward, Dante, now I remember, Dante was supposed to follow up with her before to find out if she had that kind of agreement with the developer, and it slipped her mind. Okay, sorry about that.
She doesn't. And she doesn't. No, because that was her complaint.
Okay.
They're sneaking. She said they're sneaking things on her roof, and then late at night, they sneaking up and putting things there. And so, no, there is no agreement.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. So then we'll have to follow back on. We'll have to follow back up with her to let her know that we haven't forgotten about her, and to identify next steps with her and us as well. So thank you, Pat, for that. And secondly, could you shoot me the information that you're about the supportive housing, please?
Oh, for Cambridge?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, and Pat,
Fred, so
just
sorry.
to-
I just want to note for the record that I did not forget that individual was supposed to send me some information so I could follow up with her, and that information was not sent to me. That's all.
Thank you, Dante. Could you follow up with her again, please?
Could I ask a
As
question
a
on this one?
reminder, I'd appreciate it.
Could I ask a question on
Yeah, I
this
can
one?
follow up.
Is this the
Yes.
lady on Hawthorne Street over the other side, Dante?
I'm so sorry. Say that again.
Is this a lady who lived on Hawthorne Street, but not on our side, like say closer to Utica?
I'm not sure, to be
Okay,
completely
all
honest.
right, all right.
I think she's on. I think she's on Winthrop.
Okay, good, all right.
On Winthrop Street.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Almanor, you had a question?
Yes, I was gonna make some clarification about that case because that lady's live right across the street from me.
Okay.
And also, I myself has a big construction next to my house, and I had to get a very specific, spend some money on lawyers to get the agreement to protect my house. And I'm still fighting this developer, which is also, this particular developer is very prolific in our district. He has many construction going. Actually, the newest one will be on Rogers near Parkside. He had a construction on East York Avenue before it became Lincoln. He has another one on Rutland Road. It's called Crossdale Development. And there have been, but the lady across the street from me, who's also a member of my block association, the people next door to her decided to put 2 floors above, and they completely trampled on her for they work on her roof, and she had leaks that go from the roof all the way down to her basement. And fortunately for her, she had a lawyer who was not, we didn't know how to handle that because she's a real estate lady. And she hired a real estate lawyer, they don't know how to handle construction, but she's working with a lawyer. Hopefully I will reach out to her and ask her to reach out to Dante again to make sure she get all the information. But this is a nightmare going on with many of the new construction coming in within this district. So it's not an isolated case. So
Thank you very much for that information. And I would like to remind everyone, please, whenever we can, make sure we get that information to the district office, because again, it's when we have these things, we get to know who the bad actors are and what the issues, the challenges are. And again, we need to file these reports with the city as well. So that way, the next time they want to file a report or, file for a permit or something like that, that's when we can start engaging them in terms of, you have a track record of being a terrible, well, I was a neighbor because they're doing construction, but yeah, exactly. They're terrible actors. So we need to make sure that we're tracking that as much as possible.
But she contacted the district office.
Okay. So I guess that would be the next question. And and Dante, you can later on. I guess you have another connect you need to make with her. If you could just update us later on in terms of what the issues are and what the options are in terms of us engaging the city. If there's any agencies we need to connect with, because I also think it's problematic that you shouldn't have to get a lawyer to take care of that. That's something the city should be able to take care of, or at least that's my thought. But the Dante, I would just ask if you could follow up with the respective committee chairs on that after you've had your conversations. Okay, Beverly, I do
Excuse
see.
me, Fred. It's Warren.
Hold on, Warren. I'll recognize you in a second. Beverly has her hand up, but I'll get you right after her.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Warren. Go ahead, Beverly. You had a question?
Yes, that was going to be my question in regards to policy. We as a community board, when Nicholas spoke about how many properties this particular developer is working on, we as a community board, can't we address those, all the ones in our districts who are being predatory or causing issues for other homeowners? We can't do anything since we're talking about policy for other things. Can't we talk about policy for that? Developers coming in the community and being hazardous to the existing community?
Absolutely, and that's what we leave for the committees to develop. I mean, for each respective chairs here, you understand what the pain points are, and we leave it for you and your committees to have those discussions to figure out and develop the policy recommendations that the board should be following. So absolutely, you're empowered to do that. So if it's predatory construction or people who are bad actors in these, for the respective committees, absolutely, I encourage you to work together as committees as well. So if there's the things that cross over, absolutely. But if you kind of give us rather than have 50 people trying to develop the policy, it's good when the committee takes the lead on these things, develops that, so that way we can chew on those and follow up.
So would that be Patricia Moses, or would that be ULURP or housing?
That would be the district office. I don't get paid. They get paid for that. Give me the salary and I'll do it.
Well, at least from the complaint perspective, the board office can handle that. But there will be some conversations we'll have to have. And again, for policy, it's like, maybe we'll have to flip a coin to see where it lands in terms of who's going to take the lead on that. But let's get the information first, and then we'll be able to kind of see what the next steps might be after that.
Yeah, but they need to start doing the job now. Come on.
Right, but part of the issue is if some of these issues aren't reported to the district office, they can't act on stuff they don't know about. Because a lot of times neighbors will say, well, listen, I got a lawyer and I took care of it, which means that there's not a complaint that comes to the office. So that's part of the reason why we're saying, that's why we're trying to direct as many people to the office as we can to identify where the complaints are, what the complaints are, so we can start, getting ahead of the curve instead of saying, okay, we're reactionary. Now we're being proactive because we know that this is a common issue and we can get the people in the conversation we need to have.
But with all due respect, like Patricia said, 1180 came to the office as well. Came to the board office as well.
Yes.
And it's only when a community member. So my question, now that we're talking about it, my question is the office already too overwhelmed to address these issues in a policy detail way? That was period, not question mark, period. Are they already too overwhelmed to do that?
Well,
is
that's
that why it has to come from committee?
Let me, yeah. Number one, no, the board office is not too overwhelmed to handle the constituent complaints. That's number one. Number two, when complaints come to us, we do to the best of our ability to follow up with whoever the complainant is. If we have to bring in agencies, that takes time, and we do our best to coordinate that. Three, as it pertains to 1180, if I recall correctly, there was miscommunication between yourself and the board office on how that committee meeting needed to operate. Now, when someone brings information to the board office, I usually speak to the staff because they have been in the office much longer than myself, and we try to figure out exactly what's the best route to address the issue. We realize from an administrative standpoint, we cannot, as board staff, go around the corner, set up a table, protest. We cannot do those things. Our job is to be in the board office, operating the office. If information does not come to the board office, then we do not know. There are over 40 board members, 40 different board members who live in 40 different places, who see different things in our district. If the things that they're seeing in the district, if they don't ever bring it to the board office, how is myself as the district manager, how am I supposed to take that to a city agency and start a conversation?
So Dante, when I asked the question, it wasn't an attacking question. It was something, because when Patricia said, if I got paid for it, we're realizing that to make policy, as Fred is asking, it requires detail. So what Patricia's saying and Fred are saying, and I am saying, we just need to ascertain where to start. Because if we're looking at the board as someone who needs to do the deep dive, so to speak, and that's what Patricia is saying, right? And for policy, which is what Fred is asking for, and they can't because they're doing other things, it's not a criticism. It's an assessment. I wasn't meant to be attacking. If it sounded like that, that's not what I was doing. It's an assessment. That's all. So if you're counting on the chairs to do the deep dive, then let us know. And I don't have any problems with it because that's what I did. Let us know so we don't keep coming back to you going, Dante, what about? Mia, what about? Khalid, what about? It wasn't an attack, it was an assessment. Okay?
I'm just gonna
I
say.
respect what you just.
Okay, thank you very much. But listen, we do need to kind of move forward. Hold on. I do have Warren had one final question. We're going to do that, and then we're going to move on unless there are any action items that we need to do
Just
for.
let me, because Belly did mention my name, let me just say something in reference to what she's talking about. And this is, and I'll say this, and I'm just gonna quit. First of all, it's my understanding that when complaints come through anyway, they're supposed to be recorded. There's supposed to be a record, and it's supposed to be recorded, and the follow-ups are supposed to be in writing in that book. So at any time that one of us, even a board member, comes in, they ought to be able to produce what they did in writing. And that's what I'm saying. So if that's not happening, it needs to happen.
Okay, point taken. We're going to
Point
take
taken,
Warren's
and
question.
that does happen. We have a rolling
Yeah.
document with complaints.
Okay. All right. So Warren, and then we're going to move on to the next report.
Well, first of all, I'm a little hurt that you didn't ask for an EDC report. But skipping that, I have a lot of observations from tonight's meeting. The first one is that, forgetting about the deep dive, let's take the initial the initial what's going on. Okay, the broadest part of the triangle is that it's sort of, my observation is that our committees are not working together. And a good example, and this is not criticism, it's purely observation, is that, Beverly made those remarks about that building, and I followed up with the office, and then I called Francesca, and I asked her if this was under her department's responsibility, and she said, yes, they're working on a lot of cases. So without issuing any issues here, the fact is, if we have a lot of expertise and skills on this board, and if we could bring them to the full board versus remaining in individual silos, we could do much better. Another example is with the ULIP committee and our buddy Alicia made a big issue about them not showing up, meaning the Parks Department. So, Nick, you didn't report. Was that on? You did report, but you didn't report on this. Did they come before you for the Rose Garden or whatever it's called, the Vale? Okay. So anyway, my point is this: is that we need a lot of more coordination amongst the chairs. Okay, in my mind, the office is there for administration and to institute the appropriate things that the board is doing, but the chairs are the people who have to coordinate. And overall, as we found, that we're much stronger together than separating things, because that's what the people we are confronting are doing. They want to separate us. So let's use this meeting as a way to unite and to talk about things, because there are so many overlapping things that's going on. We need to be one. We need to disseminate information. We need to be transparent and not keep all of our information on our committees. The second thing I want to comment on, which is not an EDC thing, is that only 2 or 3 committees reported on the community fair. And I just want to state this up front and without Fred's permission. The executive committee is doing a lot of work here. And we've allocated, a number of $1,000s to cover this course. So I would suggest that those committees that have not reported and not thinking about it, start thinking about it, because we need you to be successful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Okay, and I believe that was. I keep trying to remember whose report was that. Was that Pat? Was that your report we just concluded? The ULIRP?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, we went around the world, but thank you very much for that. Okay. let us go to environmental protection. Chris, you on the line still?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. I'll be very brief. I think that I just want to first check in on the letter to council persons that the board approved in our last general board meeting. I know that things are shifting with budget negotiations being ongoing and even alternate street side parking being brought back per the announcement yesterday. So I just want to check in and see where we are with the letter and if you need anything else from me.
No, I think we're good. So, and I apologize. I've seen some of the traffic between you and Dante with respect to the letter. There are a couple of final edits that I wanted to have happen, just because the tone of the letter should be that because this is something that's absolutely been adopted by the board, we just wanted to make sure that this is fully understood that it's a board position at that point. So just a couple of minor points that I need to wordsmith. I will make the commitment to get them done within the next day or so. So hopefully we should be able to get that done, and we'll get that out to the electeds.
Thanks so much. Would it be helpful if we actually now remove this recommendation about the alternate street side parking since that's been decided? Because we may look a little bit out of touch if we're calling for something now just a few days after it's been announced that they're going to go back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll make an edit. Well, here's the thing. I just want to make sure that it's something that, you know, it's known that it was a recommendation that came out, but it's been satisfied. But they should know this was a conversation that the board had and the committee had. So we'll make the edits for that. We'll account for that.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other thing is, there's nothing really to report out. We had a very brief meeting last week, which was nice for a change. The only other thing is the locations of 10 garbage receptacles. And I know Beverly asked about that in the last general board meeting, but I believe where we're at is there have been some discussions that maybe an elected could provide some of those trash cans, but there are still 4 or 5 that would cost. If they're $900 a pop, we're talking about $4,000. There's still a few trash cans that we would love for CB9 to fund now that the budget requests are in for the spring fair. We talked about this in the last executive meeting, and we had decided to table it until April, until those budget requests had come in. So I wanted to check in on that as well and see if this is something that we could decide on.
Sure. I definitely intend to touch upon it in my chair's report, but I think even more, I think Dante also has some information with respect to the fair and some of the finances as well. So we'll have some conversations with respect to that. So there'll be some information coming forward in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. That's
Okay. All right. I do see 2 questions. I see Ms. Moses and then I see Ms. Allen. Yeah. Pat, you got a question?
Oh, well, I just wanted to kind of bring something to your attention to maybe you might want to keep an eye out on 1750 Bedford Avenue. You know that where the old Firestone building used to be or is?
Oh, yes.
Okay, they put in for a demolition permit, but it hasn't been approved yet. And the reason I think we need to keep an eye on it because whatever happens there, remember now they had all kinds of how would you say, combustibles or whatever, I don't know, oil, because it was a gas station, so it has to be something there that, you know, that would definitely involve your committee.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up. We'll definitely keep an eye on it because we don't want any toxic waste and toxic fumes going out.
Okay, so definitely, and Dante, we get the permits or we get notices when those permits or any actions happen on the properties, correct?
Usually, yes.
Okay, so let's just make sure that we CC EP on that one as well. Yeah, so let's keep ULURP and EP involved on both of those. Okay, thank you very much for that, Ms. Moses. Mr. Almanor and Beverly, I see you as well. So, Mr. Almanor?
Yes, I have two questions. One, does the Environmental Protection Committee have any plan for the district fair? If so, have they started to discuss what they do? Because from at action, the district committee, I know they were planning to do composting event. Is that be a possibility to be part of the district fair? The second question concerning the Flatbush District commercial corridor. As I walk into that street on a regular basis, sometimes almost every day, there are two areas that are always very extremely dirty. We're talking about the west side of Flatbush Avenue and Lincoln, and the block between Winthrop and Hawthorne. Is the environmental committee engaging with the business or the business owners in the area in terms of keeping their sidewalk clean and so on, and what can we do as a board to facilitate that?
Hey, Nick, it's Warren. Could you repeat that again?
I would say that in the Flatbush from Empire, you say from Lincoln to Parkside Avenue, there are two general areas that generally are very dirty. The block from Lincoln to the next street, I can remember the next street, is it Maple and Midwood? The other one is from Hawthorne to Winthrop, or even going to Parkside. Those two areas tend to be very dirty, and all you have especially on the western side of Flatbush Avenue. What I wanted to know, how can we engage the business
Nick,
owners?
we are engaging with them, the Economic Development Committee. Nick, especially because of the community fair. We are engaging all the time. That's the major economic hub of our district. Actually, including Kingston Avenue, will be the major economic hub. So we are engaging and we are recruiting, etc. So does that help with your question?
Yeah, well, yes, because to some extent, because I know some area they have a big bid and there are people walking around the whole commercial district to clean up.
Say that
We
again?
don't have that. I know certain area of the city usually will have a bit of business improvement district, and usually they hire a company like that would do cleaning up of the commercial area. We don't have that in the area. But
Well,
certain
actually, there is a Flatbush Merchants Association, which we work with. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I know the guy in charge of it is the barber from there.
Infrastructure, Nick, the infrastructure is there. The question is how the community board can assist in bringing them more visibility, which we're hoping that the community fair does.
Okay. Well, part of I think the question was actually a complaint saying that there's excessive trash on that corridor. So from that perspective, is something, Warren, you can definitely loop in with Dante. So from the perspective of how do we encourage them
I
to
think
take
Christian should
ownership?
handle that. Okay.
Oh, well,
I don't do trash, but I'm happy to do it, Fred.
Okay, but you jumped in the conversation. But in any case,
I know I'm just joking.
But we love you, Warren. But yeah. So Nicholas, so Dante, if I could ask you if you could take the lead on that one, because I think for one, it's a garbage complaint. So I mean, definitely something from that perspective. But you're right. I think that there might be different avenues in terms of we can engage them as well. So understanding from that, we need you to make sure you're taking care of that. But what we can do in terms of creating, partnerships, alliances, or finding resources to help them with that. If it's a matter of, developing a bid that does these things, those conversations we can kind of bring up and expand to the appropriate committees. So,
yeah. Hey,
Mr.
it's
Amador,
Warren.
Yes.
Nick, you didn't answer the question. Did you have the Vail representative from Prospect Park talk to your committee?
Well, they came to make an announcement that
Okay,
they would
what
like
was
to
that?
have our support. That was on the 14th. I figured I had put that in part of my report.
Excellent.
Because
No, we just had a hassle on the ULIP committee, and the answer was that they were appearing at your committee, and that's why they canceled at ULIP. So as long as it's in your report, it's terrific, and thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, I do want to speed the tempo up for the meeting. So, so Beverly, I see you. Francisca, I see you, and then we're going to close on that for environmental protection. Beverly, go ahead.
I thought I saw new garbage cans on the corner of Sullivan and Bedford, and another one on the corner of Bedford and Empire. So I assumed that Christian, your committee had won approval and was already replacing the placing the garbage cans on the street. Are those garbage cans from somewhere else, to your knowledge? Because there are at least 3 garbage cans between Union and Empire, and there was only one before.
Sure, thanks for raising that. So, no, we got consensus in our committee and we passed this unanimously, but we have not moved on it to actually replace the trash receptacles because we had to have the discussion here in exec. But it's interesting that you mentioned Bedford and Sullivan because that is one of the locations that we had on our list, specifically the northeast corner of Bedford and Sullivan. I don't know if that's the corner where they replaced the trash.
That's the right. It's on the right-hand side going towards Empire. It's on Bedford and Sullivan, right on that right-hand corner, right on the other side of the COVID testing box. It's right
Beverly,
there.
are they wire baskets or are they like the new ones?
No, they're brand new. They're the ones with the little small round circle in the top, silver with the black top, and it says Community Board 9 on the side. They look new.
Okay. No, ours was if you're heading towards Empire Boulevard, going down Bedford, and you're at Sullivan, we were looking at one in front of the TD Bank, so on the other side of the street.
Oh, okay. So this one must have just got misplaced from someplace else. All right, I was just asking.
Yeah, I have a feeling sanitation redeployed it. So that might be another conversation as well, but we'll figure it out. But thanks for letting us know about that because that might be a separate
Hey,
conversation.
it's Warren. If it says CB9, it's part of the 20 garbage cans we bought last year with the extra money. That was Dante's idea.
Yeah.
So it's not haphazard. This is planned stuff. So we've already bought 20 garbage cans. So it's not, it just doesn't appear with CB9. It's not an act of the higher power. Thank you.
No, but I think the question is, it's on a location. It just popped up at a location that we didn't originally place them. So the question was whether this is a can we just bought, and we're saying no, this is part of that set of 20. How we got there is the question now.
Exactly.
Right.
Thank you.
But my point is that we did it, and wherever they end up, it's a benefit to the community.
Thank you. All right, Francisca, and then I'm sorry, was that Chris?
I just want to ask Christian, based on the opposite side parking, which you just mentioned, and hearing that there was a press conference regarding that. So as you said, so I tried to look it up, and it says that opposite side parking now has returned to residents removing their cars twice a week. As far as I'm concerned, close in my district, residents are already moving their cars twice a week, Thursdays and Fridays. So how does that affect residents who have already been moving their cars twice a week?
So I'm happy to answer that question, and then I want to also just answer Nicolas' question from a few minutes ago, which I didn't speak to. But my understanding is that if your block says 2 days a week you have to move your car, they're going back now to 2 days a week. If your block is one of those blocks that said 4 days a week you have to move your car, then they're going back now to 4 days a week. And that's going to be effective starting this summer, either in June or July. And then in terms of Nicolas' question, Nicolas, no, we are not doing a composting event at this fair. We are participating in the CB9 fair, and we've pulled down our fair in part to help be a better steward of resources. But we are not going to be doing a composting event at the June fair. We will have the Maple Street Garden, Grow NYC, and then we're working with partners to bring in city agencies like DSNY and DEP. but we will not have composting. And then on your last question, Nicola, in terms of some of these areas that are produce some TLC in terms of sanitation issues, you mentioned 2 blocks that are on our list that are on Flatbush. One is on, I'm looking at the list right now, Fenimore, the southeast corner, and Hawthorne, the southeast corner. Those are 2 blocks that would be in the area that you mentioned, and those are areas that we have proposed to replace a trash can with the support of CB9.
Quickly, Mr. Chair, if I may ask one last question, Christian. Christian, is this something this came from the sanitation of itself, or is this a request that was put towards them from the board?
Which
To
one? I'm
change
sorry.
the opposite side parking? Because I remember before when you give your report, that was one of the things that came up. That was one of the items that came up in your report. So I just want to know if it's sanitation they came up with this on because, or if it was a proposal presented by the board.
Actually, let me jump in front of this actually, because now that I'm thinking about it. If I recall correctly, the proposal wasn't for the return to the alternate side to the 4 days. It was for the enforcement. So whenever they moved the cars to make sure the streets were cleaned properly. Was that correct?
Enforcement of existing alternate
It
street
was
size.
the enforcement of it, yes. So it wasn't about a return going back to, okay, well, everybody's moving on Mondays and Wednesdays, Mondays and Thursdays, or Tuesdays and Fridays. That wasn't the request. So that's something the city is going towards, but that wasn't part of the request that we had for what we approved from the board.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't mean to jump in.
Excuse me, Fred, it's Warren.
Yes, Warren.
Fred, I just want to say that to Nick, at our food stand by Grow New York City, there's composting every Friday on Nordstrom and Empire. And I have to tell you, I am so impressed by the amount of people composting. So if you have anyone who wants to compost, please send them up there. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. All right, Chris, thank you very much. And let me see. And I want to say last, but definitely not least. Well, I'm not sure if he's last, but Primo, you've been waiting patiently. You have a report for youth services.
Sure. Woo, these meetings, y'all. 9:07. Okay, 2 hours. I think to be real though, I think we should take a look at these meetings and figure out ways that we can make them more efficient or more actionable. So that we come prepared to talk about the things that we really need either feedback on or like items that are truly relevant to the entire group. Fred, I'll send you an email offline, but I feel like it's something that requires addressing. With regard to youth services, I will keep it very brief. We are, to Warren's point, looking forward to the community board fair and expending basically all of our energy in that direction. We met about 2 weeks ago, but that was previous to the naming of a location, which, unless this group has already named it, will be the McNair Park over on Classen and Washington. I guess we'll be taking the park as well as the street on the east side of the park. So that meeting 2 weeks ago, I think honestly, like our group was fairly frustrated with not having had a location locked down yet because we couldn't kind of reach out to our potential vendors and partners for the event. Now having the location confirmed, we're starting to get the wheels spinning on reaching out to folks. I think that it would be great if we had a flyer from the community board at large about the event. So that's one thing that I would request from the, I guess, district manager / executive function of the community board. But we're going to be reaching out, and we are hoping to have about 15 vendors present. So we have about 6 weeks to lock that down. I unfortunately will not be here on the weekend of June 4th, but can deputize someone or several people to make sure that our committee has everything in place. Outside of the fair, And there are a few things just to name kind of for the executive committee. One, Summer Rising as a program. I'm sure that you've heard a little bit about summer programming from the DOE. Last year it happened. These are basically summer camps that are 9 to 5 that are run by the Department of Education. Schools dispatch their students to centralized locations that are decided upon, say, internally. Last year, things felt quite scattered. I think that they are likely to feel scattered again this year. We had some folks from Flatbush Beacon come and talk about how scattered they already feel at our most recent meeting. It's of course important to stop summer slide, but there's a lot in the news happening around Summer Rising. If you didn't see the news today, former Mayor Bloomberg and Bloomberg Philanthropies announced that they are going to be launching a $50 million initiative this summer called Summer Boost, which is clearly a direct slap in the face to Summer Rising, and it'll be $50 million that is available for charter schools. So that money will not go to the Department of Education, and I think we're going to see some competition around what summer programming looks like. Outside of that, the SYEP applications are due on the 22nd, 23rd for students who would like to get a summer job, and so we'll push out some information around that since the deadline is around the corner. And I think that's probably all that we need to report at this time. Any questions?
Okay, are there any questions? We will take a couple questions for the Chair of Youth Services. Going once. Going twice. Sold. Thank you very much, Primo.
Thank you.
Okay, Warren, I know you spoke before. Did you have anything specifically with regards to economic development that you wanted to add, or are we good for now?
Hi. No, what we're doing is we're working on the community fair on both the EDC and the executive board level, which Dante will speak to later. But basically what we're doing is we've created a one-sheeter for all the chairs to give to the committees to explain what's going on with the fair so they can attract vendors. And we're just waiting for final approval. The other thing is that we are working on recruiting people. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask. We're going to discuss the fair. I think that's the most that's the crux of the EC. We'll talk about some of those aspects of the fair coming up in a couple of the reports coming. So we'll get to those. I'll ask if anybody has any questions. Hold those for just a moment. Okay, we are now going to move on in the agenda. Let me see. Well, actually, I apologize. Are there any chairs that I did not call? And I apologize in advance if I didn't call you.
I think you cover everybody, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, everyone, for your reports. All right, so let's go on. We are now going to go to the, I believe it's the DM's report. Administrative check-in?
Yes, good night. So for the DM report, from the District Service Cabinet, installation of rainwater tank will be happen. The construction will commence in the fall and should be completed in the spring of 2023. That will be the installation of a water tank at Wingate Park. Also, I believe at Hamilton Metz, they will also be doing a similar installation of a rainwater tank under the basketball court, and I believe that will commence in the fall and in the spring of 2023. Another note from the District Service Cabinet is that senior centers are now open at 100% capacity. Now, in terms of exactly what programming they're offering, we do not have that information, but I did hear, I believe it might have been Beverly earlier mentioning about figuring out, or maybe Fran, figuring out exactly what services are being offered at the senior centers since they are now at 100% capacity. So I will work with them on that. Just another note, Councilmember Mealy's office will be moving back into their old office in Crown Heights. Not particularly sure when that move will happen, but that was a note from her office. Other items, the DDC weekly bulletin, which would have been yesterday and until Friday, there will be sewer replacement at the intersection of Empire Boulevard and Franklin Avenue, Franklin between Empire and Sullivan Place. Also, there will be work, well, it would have been today until Friday, at the intersection of Schenectady and Empire Boulevard. There will be a reconstruction of the sidewalk and curb there. Another note, CB14 will be hosting its annual youth conference on April 27th at the Left Rec Center in Prospect Park. So if you know of anyone who may be interested in attending that, they can reach out to me and I can connect them with Sean and I connect them with the Community Board 14. Community board events. So on Friday, the board office, along in partnership with Councilmember Rita Joseph, Councilmember Hudson, State Senator Myrie, Assemblymember Cunningham, the District Attorney's Office, the Department of Sanitation, NYC Cleanup Corps, Elite Learners, ACE Program for the Homeless, Repair the World, and the Sterling Street Block Association will be doing a community litter pickup this Friday on Earth Day. All the materials will be provided by the Department of Sanitation. Right now, we have a significant amount of groups that have signed up. And then any other routes that can't be covered by groups, the NYC Cleanup Corps will be servicing. So this Friday, you may see some folks cleaning up and down the district. And they're not only cleaning in the commercial corridors, they're also going on residential streets. So that you may see them, just say hello, but they're a part of the event. Also, the board office, we're partnering with the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, specifically housing supervision, to host a SCREE workshop and possibly Section 8 workshop at Tivoli Towers on May 7th and May 14th. We realized, I did a walkthrough along with Beverly and some of the other elected officials after the fire in the Bronx, and it was mentioned by a tenant who lived in Tivoli that they were about to go through a rent increase at Tivoli. And so, considering my history working at HPD, I was able to reach out to them. And what we're trying to accomplish is simply to get, the seniors who live in the building on the SCREE program and possibly Section 8 before that rent increase takes effect. Also, let's see, this past week, we partnered with the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. We held a virtual workers' rights webinar. The webinar covered the city's paid safe and sick leave laws, including the new amendments to the city's third-party food vendor service laws, in particular the new rights for delivery workers. Yeah, and with that, that's the end of my report.
Okay. Are there any questions for the district manager? Okay, hearing none. Dante, do you have any information with respect to the district fair that you need to share with us right now?
Okay, so the community fair. Okay, try to get all my ducks in a row here. Yeah, so I've been able to put, I would call it a preliminary estimated budget together, what we're kind of looking at for the community fair in June. Looking at the amount of vendors that not only the Youth Services Committee is bringing, but also Health and Social Services Committee. They're bringing a lot of participants, and so as the committees start to submit their plans to the board office, these numbers might fluctuate. But right now, we're working with this information. So right now, we have, looking at Ronald McNair, it looks like it's going to be a sizable park for what we're trying to do, especially for the tabling and giveaway aspect of the community fair. Right now, we have budgeted for between 50 to 100 tables. Now, around 50 tables for that type of event would be around $1,000. The chairs, obviously, well, most likely we would do 2 chairs per table. That's around 600. Some of the participants, may be able to get tents. Tents are not allowed in Ronald McNair Park, but we also have Classen Avenue will be closed down for the fair. So some of those tents, we're looking at about 10 tents. That's about $750. We do plan on purchasing water. Even though we have some water in the office, we definitely will need to purchase more. So we're going to budget some money for that. Tech and a DJ, we're looking about probably $2,500 for both of those combined. I think that's a sizable cushion to be able to pay for a couple of hours of DJ and AV tech if we can find the appropriate vendor. I know that questions had come up regarding portable comfort stations. I was able to find a quote for a portable comfort station, and that looks like that will be around $1,500 for the event. And then we have also budgeted $1,000 for miscellaneous expenses, which without a doubt will come up. And then we're not going to use personal vehicles to do this, so we're also going to need to rent a van to move some of the supplies from the board office to the park, and then help any other participants who may need help who are in the immediate vicinity to move their items to the park as well. So right now, the preliminary budget that we're looking at for the spring fair is around $8,000. Right now, I have it at like $7,700, give or take, depending on how much information comes back from the committees. With that being said, and I think it's important to note that the only committee that has, and let me just verify it right now, that has actually submitted a budget request form, I believe, is the Environmental Protection Committee. So as committees start to submit their forms, those numbers are going to fluctuate. I presume that we will probably have more tables, because it seems that the committees are really focused on getting a lot of vendors, and there's a lot of engagement happening. And so we'll adjust the numbers accordingly once we get all that information in. But right now, that's the tentative budget that we have for the spring fair, the community fair.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, I'll open the floor again. Are there any questions for the district manager? Beverly, I see you. Mr. Almanor, I see you as well. Beverly, go ahead.
So even if we have to let the board know if we just need a table and 2 chairs, no, those things like that aren't just allotted to each committee?
No. There's not a specific allotment to each committee. Without a doubt, we don't want to limit, what you can do. I'm just using preliminary numbers to at least give us a sense of what we might be looking at financially.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Mr. Almanor?
I was not able with my committee to get the plan, so hopefully soon the plan will be our budget. One thing I want to go is, if you're going to be in Ronald McNair Park, we should also apply to have the block in front of Prospect Heights High School also available. My suggestion would be to have the block from Eastern Parkway to President.
Yes, we already have that, Mr. Almanor.
Classen to Franklin. In terms of the tent can go on the street for those different areas, bouncy house and all this stuff. If we have all these blocks, if that space available, and you could have the individual table in the park, because the way the park is fragmented, people who don't have tents, so you could create the different areas for that. Also, my suggestion was to also go to one of these schools, possibly Prospect High School, to see they will give you a couple of room for staging. So that's one thing we could look into. Well, I was for 21 years, but that is real well. So I've seen stuff that was done we feel in front of that school. I've seen a couple of efforts that are done within that same area. So I think an approach should be made to see if we could get that back. Because not only that will also to give you additional comfort station. It allow you to use of some bathroom inside. So I think it's something we should do.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Ms. Almanor. Okay, Francisca, you have the last question.
I always have the last question. um, I know that we were thinking of vendors. Have you considered as to what the type of food, which vendors are you going to connect with? And then also, I know sometimes because of the community board and some of the restrictions, how can when it comes to donations, how do we go about, let's say one of the organizations who want to maybe make a donation towards something that we're doing. Let's say the Bouncy House, and we want to ask an organization to, to sponsor a Bouncy House. How do we go about doing that?
Right. Okay. So first question regarding the food. So really, the food conversation is, up for, I guess, discussion. It really depends on what the board wants to offer. Personally, I just think logistically, food is rather difficult to do. But again, I will leave that up to the executive committee to make that decision. An idea that I had brought up was, if we could get one of the parking lanes, reserved, then, we could work with some of the local vendors who have food trucks. They could easily just park in the parking lane. And so it's like a win-win for everyone. People spend their money that's a small local business. And then, we don't have the responsibility of, worrying about the food because they have certain licenses. And so, they're following their rules. And so I just think that's a cleaner process, but that's
Yeah, that's
completely.
what I meant.
That's
what I meant.
period. That's great. That's great. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Me
And I was
too.
asking you, have you thought of, which one of the,
Which one?
Of the,
You can get make sure you cover people's needs. A vegetarian one. Don't forget that one. And maybe 2 more. Get at least 3 or 4. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Instead of a question there.
Okay. Listen, everyone, I definitely know that we're running long on time at this point. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this, and we're going to put the marching orders in terms of what the next steps are going to be going forward very shortly. But Dante, thank you very much for putting that information out, because I think we needed to have that. Well, I'll tell you what. Do you have anything else for your district manager's report then?
No, I'm finished.
Okay. There's going to be that one action item where we're going to need to approve that as the preliminary budget because we do need to finalize that step.
So I beg to say he did not answer the last question,
which was
the donation of items.
Donation of items. That'll be something. Let me touch on that one when I get to the chairman's report. So I'll touch on that one. We'll talk about that one specifically. I'll take that point. All right. But Dante, do you have anything else or?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. All right. So there's that one action item, and please hold me to that when we need to vote on that. So we're going to go on to the chairman's report. I'm going to try and be very quick with a couple of these items. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on the district fair because there's a lot of information we need to get out in terms of how we're going to move forward with this. Just bear with me 1 second. So first item I have is nominations committee. So we are now getting ready to go into our election cycle. So next week, I'm going to be appointing, per our bylaws, we're going to be appointing the nominations committee. So that committee is going to be responsible for the elections for the board the officers for next year. Now, one development is that, and this is going to be very interesting. So the open meetings law has been extended. So the boards are allowed to continue to meet electronically. Ironically, up till June 8th, I believe, is the date. Our meeting falls a little bit behind that. So we're going to have to kind of look and see where we are at that point. but we will probably proceed as if we're going to continue to meet electronically. One of the things we'll need to do is we're going to have to actually have another amendment to the bylaw authorizing electronic meeting and electronic voting. Some of those details will become more clear to us as we get closer to the time. So we'll get to that. But ultimately, I just want everyone to understand that the first item that is going to happen is we're going to be empowering a nominations committee. If there is anyone who's interested in serving on that committee, and I think there's a few names I'm looking at that we might ask actually to participate with that, please let me know. The nominations committee is supposed to be between 5 and I believe 7 members of the board. You are not barred from running if you are on the nominations committee. You are still allowed. That's a question that's come up in the past. We've already vetted that with the law department. You are not barred by the bylaws, and there are no issues with the city charter in terms of you doing that as well. The only thing you would do is if there is a specific portion of the election where you are actually counting votes, and this actually shouldn't be an issue because there are going to be, the votes will be electronic, you would have to recuse yourself from certain portions of the meetings or the process where you have a direct interest or if you are directly involved in that. But otherwise, please just be aware of that. If anyone is interested, please reach out to me, let me know, and we will give you an orientation and we will get immediately started with a meeting setup. So there's probably only going to be maybe 2 to 3 meetings that will be required for it. It's fairly straightforward in terms of setting up. But again, just let me know, and we will announce the names of those who are going to be serving on the committee as of next Tuesday. Last item I had was with respect to the Women's History Month resolution. So one of the things that I had intended to do was to introduce a resolution before the board last month, honoring, recognizing Women's History Month and honoring the women who serve on our board, who serve well and who serve in every capacity, and who've done this for years. So I did want to formally introduce this to the executive committee for a recommendation to introduce, a formal recommendation to introduce. Even though Women's History Month has passed, I do want for us to recognize that, and I do want to make sure we acknowledge all the women who serve on our board. So that is one action item I have in terms of approving that resolution. Do not have the text, but the text, unfortunately, I don't have the text present, but we'll be able to forward to the board for consideration prior to. Last, so the district fair. The district manager has already done a fantastic job in terms of outlining from the budget aspect. So now we are still waiting a lot of information coming from the committees. I will say this, the time is now, it's real. We have a date, we have a location. From the preliminary data we've gotten from the committees, this promises to be a big event, a fantastic event, a phenomenal event, something worthy of this board. So, but what we're going to need is from all the committees to make sure they're continuing to communicate with the district office, letting us know what resources and who you have coming to the party. That is going to be the big thing. So far, I think we've already accounted for at least 40 to 50 different vendors that are going to be coming. The district manager has already stated that we have plans of trying to make sure that we have food. We're looking for comfort stations so that way people can come. They have facilities that are available. We're looking at things like tents for seniors where they'll be able to relax and enjoy some of the day, which hopefully will be a beautiful one since we're doing this in June. A number of vendors. We're looking at a number of city agencies who are going to be participating as well. Some of the items that we've talked about, for example, the Bounty House, we're trying to engage vendors and different community partners as well to underwrite some of those aspects. So Fran, to your question, if there are vendors who have access to those things, we are either going to try and create a vehicle or identify a vehicle where they can make the financial contribution, who'll be able to turnkey for that for us and make the payment, or even better, if they are able to do the underwriting and actually sponsor those. And we can figure out some way of saying, okay, well, listen, the Bounty House is brought to you by the good people that name the agency, the organization. So we're continuing to work on those. Additionally, as I said before, we're working on a financial vehicle that people will be able to make donations to that should be tax deductible. But we're working on those, and those are details that'll be coming. If anyone has any access to resources of people who have checks to write, please let the office know so that way we can make sure we're engaging them And we'll definitely identify the appropriate way for them to make their contributions, and and also to make sure that we can recognize them for that as well. We need to make sure that logistically all these things are going through the office. Now, I understand a number of the committees and the chairs and members of the various members of the committee have their personal connections, and absolutely leverage those. But what's going to be very key is we need to make sure we're coordinated. So the only thing I would ask is, if you are communicating that, if we can turn the communications or the logistics over to the board office, fantastic. If not, if this is something where it's like, yeah, this is more of a personal ask or a favor that I have to do, that's fine, but we ask that you still keep the district office apprised of what's going on, because we don't want to avoid any miscommunications in terms of, well, I spoke with so-and-so and they said we will have 19 tables, but the district office is not prepared for that. So we need to make sure that all those resources are going, or all those requests, or whatever the expectations are being recorded, monitored and recorded by the district office. Let me see. I think that is all I have with respect to that. But we are a go. We are a go. We've already put up to save the date. So there are some logistical items, including the flyers, the communications, the marketing, how we're going to do that. But we are going, and we're going to plan for more consistent communications. If your committees have not identified resources, now is the time to do it. You need to do it very quickly, because we need to make sure that we're labeling everything, and that we're making whatever outreach we need to do, and making sure that we're able to accommodate everything we need to do. That is all I have for that. So the two items I have for my action items are the adoption of the budget and the approval of the event. And then we will have also the Women's History Month resolution. All right, at this time, I will take questions. Mr. Almanor, I see you, and then Fran, I see you.
One
Chris,
question. Is it possible we're going to get a sound stage?
A sound stage, that's one of those things where, well, let me ask this. So do you already know of a vendor or partner that is going to require one?
No, possibly, yes. But the question is, we had a representative in our committee who worked with WEC, and I was going to ask her to approach WEC, because they are very expert in there, putting up soundstage. So that was because she didn't make it the last meeting. Because I think if we do have a soundstage or some kind of a stage, I remember one of the idea is to give the key to the district for somebody that came from the district that went out and made it pretty big in the world, or something like that, and get those proclamations for the women. We're gonna we could do all that stuff, but a sound stage, I think, will be of importance of doing so. And also, I know the education committee was working with the superintendent, where they were going to do a virtual DJ competition among the high school. So if that did take place, maybe an award will be presented. I know they canceled the spelling bee, so that would have been the time to award the spelling bee. The other thing is want to talk about is, have we approached federal government? FEMA is one organization that have preparedness. Armed Forces Recruiting Station, they may have money to help get all the stuff. Veterans Administration, all that information we probably will have to be bringing in there. So these are the couple of ideas I wanted to put forward.
No, absolutely. I think these are great. Particularly, I like the
Excuse me,
idea.
Fred?
Hold on one second. Let me finish this point. Then absolutely.
No, I want to comment on this.
Yeah, hold on. Let me get the thought out, and then absolutely, you
Okay.
can get it right after that. The soundstage, I think, is a great idea, particularly if you have somebody who has access to that. Let's talk offline in terms of, let's see what that looks like, and let's get the ball rolling with respect to that. The virtual DJ contest, I think, is great. The other entities that you're talking about, if you haven't already submitted those to the district office, please get in contact with Dante and let him know those entities. So I heard you say, let me see, the Department of Veteran Services. I heard you say a couple of other places. Make sure you let Dante know if we have points of contact. Let him know that as well, so we can get those conversations going with respect to that. And we'll see what we can accommodate if it works or if it doesn't work. But let's get those going. So Dante, I have to say, and kudos to the district office. They've already started organizing a lot of this information in terms of who's coming, who the points of contact are, what the expectations are, what they're bringing, what their needs are going to be. So we want to make sure we fill in that matrix as much as we can. All right, so just let's talk offline with that, but make sure we also get that information to Dante and the team in the office. Warren, I'm sorry. Yes, you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I have a whole different impression. We seem to be passing off everything on the district office. Nick, the sound stages are provided by the Parks Department. That's your committee. So give them a call and see if they can get a sound stage. We could talk more offline, but the committees have to do the work here. And if you're the Parks Committee and you want a sound stage, call the Parks because that's who provides it. Our district office has limited bandwidth, and I just disagree with this. For instance, everybody has great ideas, but the committee has to implement, as we've always done. So if you want to talk offline about this, by all means, but you got to start taking responsibility for your ideas. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, and I started the speakers list. So, okay, Fran, Chris.
Yes, I sorry. I just had a suggestion. I think you touched on it a bit, but not to the extent where I was thinking, is that we have all those committees and we have different organizations. And I was thinking that it may be at a late hour now to bring the committees together to have a conversation. But we need to cross-reference the vendors, organizations that we are inviting, because I don't want to come and tell you, well, I have 30 persons vendors coming. Another committee says they have another 30 coming, and you say, oh, we have 60. And when you look at it, they have the very same set of people, the very same organization that I'm inviting. They have the very, so I think that we need to start doing cross references to see who's coming.
And
Maybe
that's
committees
why,
could meet, the chairs of the committees could come and have a, on the table, and then we could say, okay, this is who I'm inviting. So everybody know we are the same page, so we are not inviting the same set of people.
Well, and that's why the charges to the chairs of each of the committees is to get those vendors into Dante so we can fill in that matrix. Because he's already started that, where it's like we've identified, okay, NYPD. You may say I'm inviting NYPD. I may say I'm inviting NYPD, but Dante already has it on there. He can say, oh, by the way, this committee is already reaching out to them to do X. So this way, it's all in one place. We know who's inviting who or what the expectations are, and if there's any discrepancies or things we need to resolve, there's one source of the truth where we can get all that information. Okay, Chris.
Thank you. Very much looking forward to the fair. Martina is the one who's handling that on my behalf for the Environmental Protection Committee. And I hear that there's many moving parts and different aspects of the budget, but I'm just wondering, what are the implications for the requests that the Environmental Protection Committee put out to fund just a couple of trash cans in our neighborhood? Because we did do the work from the bottom up. We approved this at the committee level, and we tabled it last month because folks were, my understanding is that committees had a deadline to submit their budget requests, and now it's April, so I just want to see what are the implications for the Environmental Protection Committee's request to fund. At this point, what started with 20, we're really just down to 5 now, because it sounds like elected might be able to fund some of them, but I'd like to hear from exec and district managers.
Okay, I'll take the first stab at it, and Dante, if there's any additional information you have. Based on the reports that I've heard, the rough number in terms of unencumbered funds had been anywhere between 8 and 10K. And Dante, you'll correct me if I'm really off on the math. But the initial budget that Dante has just indicated is we're looking at between 77 and 8K right there just for the, for the materials that we're already looking at that we'd have to get. So between vendors, supplies, vehicles, AV, tech, and a bunch of other things as well. I guess what that says is it's going to be tight in terms of what it is. And I think that, even though it's a preliminary budget, I would want to be very careful in terms of saying around 8K, it might be 7,000, it could be 85, 9,000. So it's going to be very tight in terms of what we can actually do on top of that. And I guess that's part of what's coming before the exec right now at this time, in terms of this is something we have already kind of advertised, and we've made the indication that this is going to be something we're going to do. Obviously, it's always hard choices because we have limited resources, but that'll be the question before the executive committee, and that's going to come before the board as well. In terms of if we're going with this, it really probably means we're not going to be able to do too much with respect to the garbage cans, or at least with respect to board funding. But Dante has already started looking at, again, with Crystal Hudson, and I think there are a number of other sources that we might be able to look into as well with respect to getting the balance of those filled. But there's some additional conversations that I think, that we've been having that, we might need to continue. All right. Dante, did you have anything to add to that, or?
Yeah, I was going to say that, you're already familiar and aware that, I've been able to have a conversation, at least with Crystal Hudson's office, regarding at least 5 receptacles. And so, yeah, there are a lot of moving parts, and I'm really hoping tomorrow I get confirmation on if, they're actually able to do that. If so, then that's good news. But I can't speak for the council member's office. So we're just waiting for that. And also, Christian, I just have to admit that, a lot of this also goes to the rest of the committees, because as I mentioned before, the only committee that submitted a budget was yours. And so I've had to come up with a preliminary estimate of what things will cost. And so, if the other committees haven't submitted budgets to me, I cannot narrow down exactly what the dollar amount's going to be. So, as that information comes in, of course, I will keep you apprised. And listen, regardless of where we're sitting in this situation, I think that, even though we've had those conversations with Crystal Hudson's office, I think we should entertain and at least start a discussion with Councilmember Rita Joseph's office to see if they can possibly, fund the other trash cans. It's a working group, right? Like, they're new council members. I think there's a prime opportunity to hopefully, wiggle our way in and start those discussions. But that's a plan B, right? The board has voted on your specific committee's endeavor. And so, if hopefully, when all the information settles, we'll be able to fully accommodate your request. But even on the backside, I do think that it would be advantageous to start conversations with Councilmember Joseph's office.
But I do want to say, and Beverly, I do see your hand. I'll recognize you in a second. But I do want to say one thing to something Dante said. We already had a deadline for everybody to submit their budgets. And I think even from the perspective of the budget that's presented by Dante, this is not necessarily for committee-specific stuff. This is the stuff we would have to have the event, period. You need porta potties, so that's not a committee thing. That's an event-based kind of a thing. We need tables and chairs. That's not a committee thing. That's a matter of we need to be able to support the vendors. So I think for the most part, we're saying at the basic bare bones, this event is going to cost us $8,000. Committees, if you have like, oh, by the way, and I wanted to get 7,000, 1,000 to do this, we're past that point at this point because we had already requested the budget items for that. So we're integrating as much as we can in terms of making sure we can support it. We're still going to have to have some conversations in terms of bringing additional monies and seeing where we can get sponsorships and everything. But I think at the very least, as a board, we need to be looking at, if we're in this event, which I think, we're very much into it at this point, we're in for about 8,000. And that has to be weighed with everything else that we have in terms of going for the rest of the year. Let me get Beverly and I'll come right back to you, Chris. Okay, Beverly, yes.
Thank you. With all due respect, And I appreciate the it being said that the individual committees aren't going to be placed on a budget, but with all due respect, why not place all of us on a budget? Because the trash cans were in the request queue first, and it's a broader community thing. Even though our community fair is the community thing, but this is going to be something that's longer sustaining and more beneficial to the community. So I don't mind housing, even though housing doesn't, we can, these are resources that we probably already have, and we ask presenters to come that won't cost any money, but all of us should be placed on a budget to enable as many trash cans as possible, because they were in the queue first. We've been talking about them now for months. So maybe not 10, but enable them to get 6 or something like that. Because the bigger budget you allow us, the bigger budget we're going to use. And that's just the reality of it. So I just like to suggest that.
My hand was up also, Mr. Chair. Long time.
Okay, and we'll get right back to you in a moment. So Chris and then Fran.
I would just echo what Beverly said. You know, we raised it before. Would be grateful to consider it even partial requests, maybe not all 10, but it would be helpful and nice, and also show the committee that the work that they've done surveying the community and coming back together, discussing, and then going back and asking for a location in the northeast part of our district, and then considering that and taking pictures and all these different things. It would show the committee that their work is heard and that there's some movement taking place on it.
Fran.
So I just wanted to touch based on what Christian just said. I just want to touch on 2 things, because I think when Christian, when you had submitted before, you said the 10 trash cans, I think you were asking for $8,000. So therefore, if we are looking at 4, so we are going down to $4,000. So that's a big dent as to what the committee or the board is trying to do on a whole with the community fair. So, and I hear what Dante is saying is that he's not saying, or the executive is not saying that all that is, you cannot, they will not purchase. Definitely it is something that they're looking into and they would like to do, but we just have to work with it, because I did, Carmen and we had conversation, I think last month, and Carmen was able to, through the RAT committee organization that they had I don't know if I'm calling the name right, but they had a forum. They had either a training or whatever that they had, and they were able to get, I think Carmen said maybe 9 or 12 trash receptacles for the area in Kingston, and she went to business to give them out, and they were free of charge. And I brought it to Fred attention, and as well as Dante, asking, have a conversation with Carmen to see how that would work. And it is, and I think one of the council member was part of that conversation as well. And I think that if there are means and ways to get those receptacles free, why not? Why not go for it? And maybe, just maybe, we can, get maybe your committee might come up with something else where you may need that funding to do something else. But there are resources out there, and there are other means of getting those receptacles free of charge, that you don't have to pay for it. And I think that it's very commendable for all the work that you guys did. But when we look at the funding, it is limited, and it won't hurt to have a conversation with Carmen as to what they did and as to how they were able to get those receptacles free, because the program is actually giving those receptacles free.
Okay, hold on, Chris. We'll come back to you in a second. Mr. Almanor, do you have? I see your hand up. Did you have a question, or was that just from previous?
No, there was one more item I wanted to mention in terms of organization to reach out to,
Okay.
both CUNY and SUNY, because the way I looked at it, this is also resource fair. I think this is an area for the youth and the education committee to do work in, to have representation. We had Mecca Evers College, and I think they should be right there into that fair, right in our district. They should be there. The other things I wanted to mention, I just want to answer to Warren. I had a meeting scheduled where each of our members was supposed to reach to their organization. But I had 4 people showing. Nobody showed up at those last 2 meetings. That's not enough. That's a problem. Whatever plan we had planned to assign tasks I was not be able to do that. And that's the problem I'm having. So if I have a committee I think needs to be filled up because people are not showing up.
Okay. With respect to that, it's definitely, you know, you're definitely in a hard position as chair. You're definitely in a hard position as chair because obviously it's like there's not as many hands. The hands you're expecting to do the work aren't showing up. Which means that what part of it is then we need to be having conversations about what realistically you can depend on. Who do you have actually doing the work? And that's probably going to kind of that's probably going to kind of you know, dictate what you're able to do. You know, if you had 10 people working on it, yeah, maybe you can get 15 different vendors. If there's really only 3 or 4 of you, then maybe realistically it's only 3 or 4 vendors that we could realistically can get. But let's just work on what's real at this point from that perspective. Now, if you know, you said CUNY and SUNY, those are good. Those might be easier targets to reach where we might be able to assist with that. I might be able to assist with that, or I'm not sure if the district office has the bandwidth or if we have more direct connections where if we write the solicitation, we can get that done easy. But to that point, just you know, let us know which entities you're looking at, and then we can talk about, okay, well, listen, this is an easy reach, this is a harder reach, or this might be beyond the capacity of what we have, you know, what we can actually take care of right now, and we'll pick whatever the best options are that work.
Agreed, absolutely agreed.
Okay, but if you send us, yes, Warren.
Nick, I'm happy to work with you on this. All it takes is a phone call, and we'll find out if they'll provide a stage or not. So if you need help, let us know.
Right.
Well, I will be reaching out to you for the help. I do need the help.
Yeah. Let's do this. Just send an email to the office, myself and Warren. Identify those entities that you talked about. So let's talk about Brick with the soundstage. Let's talk about SUNY and CUNY and some of those other ones, and we'll figure out what's the easiest ones with the, you know, what's the, you know, the easiest way, the most efficient way to try and get resources from those, and we'll work it out from there. We'll work it out.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, I'm sorry about that. I had you on hold for a second. Yes.
It's okay. I just want to say that to Francesca's point, you know, it's well understood and I appreciate it. I do want to add that on my own, I applied for a citizens committee grant on behalf of our committee through finding a small space to do so. And, you know, if we're fortunate enough to get that money, then I'd love to spend it on environmental protection items so that we don't drain the resources of CB9. But in this case, the committee decided and organized around the idea of complementing and strengthening the great work that CB9 already did last year in purchasing a number of trash receptacles for our community that have already made a great difference. So it was a very thoughtful and meticulous effort, and would love to hear your thoughts, Chair, on what Beverly said in terms of, you know, the budgets are going to be as big for the fair. The budgets are going to be as big as committees ask for unless we put a limit. And also the fact that the EP committee has agreed upon this and raised this prior. It was kind of before, before it was earlier on in the queue. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. Very briefly, I would say I probably disagree with that in terms of people can ask for whatever numbers they're going to ask for, but there's only but a certain amount that's actually in the budget. So there are going to be decisions that have to get made along the way. Some of them will be easier decisions, you know, in terms of it's like, no, we don't have $10,000 for this, so we're not gonna be able to do that. Some of them will be able to negotiate where it's like, you know, we can either get support in other places. There might be things we might be able to get in-kind donations, but that's gonna be part of the work in terms of doing this entire program. But I think that we would need to make sure that we're very clear in terms of, and this is definitely not an easy decision, but in terms of which the priority is going to be. If we're doing this, if we're doing it at this level, it's probably going to require a minimum investment of that. If it's something that's truly not the board appetite, then that probably frees up money, but that's the conversation as the exec and as a board we would have. But I do want to say this as well. I don't want you or the committee to think that if it doesn't get taken care of this time around, it's something that, oh, by the way, it's never going to happen. Because I think it's a priority in terms of we've identified that we need about at least 10 cans, at least. And we probably needed more, and you were very, good in terms of you pared it down. But that doesn't mean that after we convene in June that these conversations can't still keep going and we still can't make the request and see if we can identify places. So again, I think we've identified, one of the council members, we're having a conversation with them. I think that there are other council members we should be working with as well. And there are probably other entities where we can try and see if we can approach this in terms of, no, listen, you can find some money to do this. Francisca said that, listen, we've identified there might be another place. And that's a conversation that we're going to dive into as well, in terms of seeing if they're able to make that contribution and assist with that. So this is not a dead conversation. I don't want you or the committee to think that because, if the committee, the board votes on something else, that all of a sudden we're disregarding it. We're saying that this is the priority for now, but that, it doesn't mean we can't have multiple priorities. Okay, but that'll be part of the conversation we'll have. Even at this next meeting as well. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm going to end my report on that. We're going to, all right, so then let's do the action items that I've heard for this evening. So first, I have 2 action items. Let me just make sure I record this. So for the exec, I see Dexter, I see you on there. Mr. Roberts, you there? Dexter, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I see Dexter, I see Warren Burke, I see Francisco Leopold, Watson Lord.
What? You don't need Warren Burke. I have nothing to say.
We don't believe you. And myself. So we do have a quorum. Let me see, just make sure I didn't miss any other. Okay, yes, we do have a quorum at this time. Okay, so let's take them these. First item I had was, let's do this, the Women's History Month resolution. I apologize that you do not have the text, but essentially the resolution was with regards to recognizing Women's History Month and recognizing the individual members of Community Board 9 for their contributions. Do I have a motion to approve that resolution and move to the full board?
So made.
Okay.
Second.
So I have it moved by Warren Burke, seconded by, who's the second?
Almonor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Almonor. Oh, I didn't even get you. I'm sorry. My apologies. Seconded by Almonor. Okay. Are there any questions with respect to that, with that item? Seeing none, we're going to call the question. All those in favor of forwarding the resolution to the board for full approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any members? Thank you. Are there any members who in opposition? Please state your name for the record. Hearing none, please record that as none in opposition. Are there any members of the executive committee who wish to abstain? Please state your name for the record. Hearing none, please record no abstentions. Motion carries. The resolution will be forwarded to the board for approval. Okay. Next item I have on my list is the adoption of a preliminary budget for $8,000 for the event and the approval of the district fair for June 4th. Do I have a motion to approve that budget and adopt the event, to approve the event and the budget?
Motion to approve budget.
Okay, I have it moved by Francisco Leopold. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, I heard a second, Linda Watson Lord. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any conversation? Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting, of approving the event and with the preliminary budget, please say aye.
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 Are there any members of the executive committee who are opposed? Please say no. Please state your name for the record. Okay, hearing none, please record none in opposition. Are there any members of the executive committee who wish to abstain from the vote? Please state your name for the record. Hearing none, please record no abstentions. The motion carries. The event is approved and with the preliminary budget, and we'll move forward to the full board for consideration. Okay. Let's see. Trying to go back. I apologize. Beverly, you had a motion. You had an event for, was it the affordable housing event?
We were talking about that. You said you wanted to move it to the full board for a vote.
Right. So yeah, so we would
We
want to do
haven't
that.
had it yet. No, we haven't had it yet.
Well, no. So I think it's just a matter of let's approve the event. Are there any resources you're going to need aside from, I mean, is there anything
Outside
that
of speakers, outside of speakers and the use of the virtual platform, no, I don't anticipate any other needs.
Okay. So this is something that I think it's low to no cost or no to low cost. All right. So the only thing we would need from the committee is the actual date. So we'll leave the date to be determined.
Yes.
So at this time, I will entertain a motion. Well, actually, it's already been. Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the recommendation of the Housing Committee to have an affordable housing forum.
In May.
Date to be determined. In May?
Right.
You want to lock yourself in May or date to be determined?
No, date to be determined. That's good.
Date to be determined. Do I have a motion?
So made.
I have it moved by, I thought I heard Warren. Was that you?
That was me.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second, Almono.
I have a second by Nicholas Almanor. Are there any questions?
We need a executive board member to second it.
Yeah, Nicholas.
Oh, yeah,
Nicholas did.
I can second that, no
Oh,
problem.
Nicholas, I'm sorry. I keep making the same
Oh.
mistake. I apologize.
Okay. All right. So are there any questions? Okay.
Apology accepted.
Thank you.
Okay. No questions heard. So we'll call the question. All those members of the executive committee in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any members of the executive committee in opposition? Please state your name for the record. Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please record none in opposition. Are there any members of the executive committee who wish to abstain from the vote? Please state your name for the record. Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please record none in abstention.
So moved.
The motion carries. That will be brought to the full board for consideration. And let me see. Okay, Transportation Committee. Transportation has one action item. The street co-naming for, I believe it's Eudes Pierre, wasn't it? I believe.
Correct.
Yes, for Eudes Pierre. Okay, the Transportation Committee voted in favor unanimously. I will entertain a motion to forward this recommendation to the full board for consideration at the Tuesday, April 26th meeting. Do I have a motion to do so?
Motion to forward.
Okay. Okay, I have it
Second.
moved by Francisco Leopold, seconded by Nicholas Almanor. Okay, are there any questions?
Yes, it's Warren.
Yes, Warren.
In terms of the board, I'd be very wary of this at this moment in time, and I'm certainly not against it. But I do think that considering that this is in court, we should not do anything to influence the outcome. And since Stanford Rubenstein was on the meeting, I think he will use our endorsement or non-endorsement as part of his case. So I propose a addendum that we table this until the court case is decided.
Okay, so are you moving to amend the motion to, oh, actually, are you making a motion to table?
Yes,
Okay,
until the
so,
court case, I'm not against this by any means, but I do think we need to let the court play out and not to be used as an endorsement or a non-endorsement of this.
okay, so it's been moved by First Vice Chair Warren Burke to table until the resolution of the court case. Is there a second for the motion? Well, for a second time, is there a second to the motion to table? Okay, the motion to table dies for lack of a second. Okay, so we currently have a motion on the board to forward to the full board for consideration. And just as a brief comment, Warren, I do share your concern with respect to that as well. And I think we did say previously in the morning in the meeting, so we will reach out to Corporation Counsel to see if there's anything we need to be looking out for, if there's any advice that they have, legal advice that they would give us with respect to that. And I would just ask to make sure that at the soonest possible time, please make sure the district office is able to get this information out to the full board so that way they can see the entire recommendation. And we'll have additional information for the board at the time of the board meeting next week.
We still need a vote on the on the original motion.
Yes, we're going to vote on it. We're going to vote on that right now. Carmen, I'm sorry. Did you have something? Hold on 1 second. Did you have a question, Carmen? You're on mute. No, Carmen. Yeah, Carmen. I saw her camera came up. All right. Okay. All right. So we seeing no other questions, we'll call the question. All those in favor of forwarding the recommendation of the committee to the full board at the general board meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I was just saying, everybody got quiet. Aye. Are there any members of the board of the executive committee in opposition? Please state your name for the record.
Yes, Warren Burke, until we have more information.
Duly noted. Madam Secretary, please record Warren Burke as being in opposition.
Duly reported. Duly recorded, sorry. Got it.
Are there any other members who wish to vote against the motion at this time? Okay, hearing none. Are there any members of the executive committee who wish to abstain from the vote at this time?
I'm Francisca Leopold, because I don't know much of the conversation that was said based on this recommendation. So I am not here there, so I'd like to abstain because I don't have much information as to what's happening.
Okay, so we have an abstention by, please record Francisca Leopold as an abstention.
Mr. President, we don't have any in favor of anyway either.
I called. I heard
Carmen is waving to saying something.
Yes,
Yeah.
Carmen. Carmen, what's up?
Oh, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Carmen. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you at all. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Okay, so when I called for the
when
ayes,
Carmen was talking, I couldn't hear. I didn't hear exactly what was being discussed. So I don't know the nature of the conversation as to why it's being sent back or whatever.
why it's being sent? Well, it's not being sent back. It's being moved to the full board.
No. Warren, based on what Warren's discussion, what he said, as to the
Right.
court or whatever, yeah.
No, what I said.
I don't have the full understanding as to what was said.
Yeah, that's why we should table this. I voted no because, not that I'm against it by any means, but I do think it's beyond the board to get involved and be used as an exhibit in a legal conversation.
You didn't want to talk over what?
All right.
Say that again,
Hello,
please.
hello.
Yes, Carmen, yes.
Yes, Carmen.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yes,
Now we can.
Huh?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
I don't understand why we're having this conversation about lawsuits, because these people did not come to us to get support from a lawsuit, to discuss any lawsuits.
Thank you.
They came to us strictly for a street co-naming, which was done according to the guideline that the board has set for years. They presented, we voted, and it was told to them that we were going to move it to the board. Now we're talking about Sandy Rubenstein. Sandy Rubenstein was on the meeting to talk on behalf of the mother, who was too distraught to speak for herself. It wasn't until Warren brought up the issue of a lawsuit that the lawsuit even came about. There was no discussion of lawsuit. There was no anti-police mention. There was no mention of the incident. Everything was about memorizing the young man for the service that he did to his community, the contribution that he did to his community. Now we're taking this in a totally different direction, and that's what's wrong with this board. We do meetings, the committee does stuff, and then when it comes to this, then all this other stuff get thrown into the soup that got nothing whatsoever to do with it. We discussed from the beginning, reach out to Combs Council, let them know it's a street co-naming. And what you should know is that whether we act on it or not, Crystal can go ahead and rename that corner regardless of what the board says.
And she absolutely can. And hold on. Warren.
No, I just want to point out one thing.
No. Warren, you have not been recognized.
Yeah.
Carmen, and duly noting everything and the work that your committee has done, but this is part of what the board is going to do in terms of this is a conversation, and board members are going to vote depending on how they feel with the information. What we're going to do is try and make sure they have all the information we can get. You've already gathered the package. Your committee already has their minutes. That'll be
But
given
why
to
are
the
we
board.
talking about Sandy Rubenstein?
Because it is a concern. It is a concern. It is. Hold on. It is a concern, and we will get the information, and the board will have a conversation and vote on it. Well, actually, hold on. Hold on.
Guys.
Order of the day. Order of the day. Let's get this order of the day. Warren, let me get this vote straight first, please. So first of all, okay, I recorded one person in opposition, one person who wished to abstain. For the remaining members, do you wish your vote to be recorded as a yes? Please state it now.
My vote is yes.
May I can I retract?
Okay, what would you like to change your vote to?
Because I just heard comments, because I was in two meetings at the same time when Carmen was speaking, so I didn't get the full understanding of what was being said. So I would retract to say yes.
Okay, Francisco Leopoldo.
Fred, I disagree with this.
Okay,
Because at the
Warren,
meeting,
Warren, stop.
No,
Warren,
Fred,
it doesn't
you're
make sense to
voting
debate
under
it.
false pretenses here.
Warren, it's a
No.
vote now. We've already done, Warren, it's
No,
a
but you
vote.
just
You
let
vote yes
Carmen-
or you vote no. It's a
No,
vote yes
excuse
or
me.
you vote no.
No, you just let Carmen speak, so let me speak.
Because
Okay,
she's the
it's
chair,
totally
so we let her
inappropriate.
speak and give that information. You've had your information.
but I
You've already
have
made your point very
information.
clear. Warren, you
because
already made your
Carmen-
point very clear. We've
No,
already committed to Warren.
No, Fred, Carmen gave
Warren,
more
your
wrong
vote is-
information.
That you know what, and you will have an opportunity to debate it at the board meeting. Warren,
Fred,
Warren,
no,
is
I'm
your vote
not
yes or
debating
no?
it at the board meeting. Carmen gave inaccurate information. I want that
Listen,
part of
and
the
you will
record.
debate it, and you will
And
have an
the whole
opportunity to
vote
debate it
should
at the
be
board meeting.
void.
Do you
Period.
want this vote? Duly noted. Now, what is
I
your vote?
already voted, but I don't understand why Carmen was speaking after the vote. And since she spoke after the vote, I would like to speak after the vote.
She had some information that she was trying to get to the board, to the exec.
I spoke
She
after
gave
the
her
vote
information.
because I've been trying to
No,
speak
no,
forever.
Okay,
So
all
all
right,
I
okay.
wanted to
Listen,
do
we are done. We are done. Your
No,
vote has been
Fred,
recorded.
this is an
Warren,
incorrect vote. It should
No.
be void. It should be tabled
it
for
is
next
not
meeting
void.
because it's
It
inappropriate.
is not void.
Thank
It is
you.
not void. The votes have
It
been
is
recorded.
void.
This
How,
is, it is not.
how could you have testimony after the vote and then let someone change their
Warren,
vote based on
Warren,
inaccurate testimony?
Warren, it is
Period.
perfectly within the members' right to do it. We are done. It is going to the full board. You will have an opportunity to explain everything after we get all the
Well,
information.
no, I
It's
will
done.
take this up before that vote, okay?
You can
Because I
file an
think this
Article
whole vote is
78 if you feel that we are out of order. You can
a
file an
what?
Article 78.
A
An
70.
Article
I love
78.
when you speak like that. Okay, that's fine, but I will.
Thank you.
Totally
So
inappropriate.
we are now
Totally
moving
out of
on.
It's not
Order of the day.
inappropriate because
Order.
I've been
Okay,
raising,
Carmen,
my hand and waving throughout the
Carmen,
whole meeting
Carmen.
trying to speak.
Dante, please mute the
Well,
mic.
that was your problem,
Dante,
Carmen.
please mute the mics.
Bye.
Okay, we are moving. It has already been moved, seconded, discussed, voted. It is going to go to the full board. All the information will be considered at that point. We are moving on.
Mr. President, I still need to finalize this vote. How much in favor? I only got one opposition. Ms. Francisco, she changed her vote from abstention. I don't have a number for in favor yet.
Okay, I voted in favor. Mr. Almanor voted in favor. Francisco
Right.
voted in favor.
Four,
Dexter, do you? What was your vote? And Mr. Almanor voted in favor.
four. Okay,
That's 4.
that's good.
Dexter, what was your vote? Dexter, you there?
I can see Dexter there. And who is
Yeah,
Kyrie
Dexter's on.
Allen? Who is Kyrie Allen? He was trying to get your attention ever since.
Kyrie is a board member, but not on the executive.
Okay, because I don't know him. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, how are you? Kyrie Aline. I'm good. I'm just here.
Okay, thank you, Kyrie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dexter.
Thank you.
Dexter, if you are there, what is your vote? We need to record your vote. Okay, record
I've
Dexter's
sent the
vote.
notification for him to unmute, but he is
Okay.
not responding.
Well, listen, if he doesn't vote, please record his vote as an abstention, and if he wishes to correct it for the record later, he can do that.
Okay, hold a bit. Let me get that. Linda. So far, we have 5. 1 abstention, which is Dexter, and 1 opposition, Worry.
Thank you for the count. So the motion carries. So it will be discussed at the general board meeting next week. Okay. All right. And I'm looking through. We have. Okay. Dante, how many liquor license applications do we have?
Mr. Chair, just to inform you that you have lost quorum because Warren hang up.
Hold on. How many members are on?
We got 1.
The executive members to vote.
Yeah, 1, 2. Well, I'm not sure about Dexter. So in reality, we've got yourself, myself, Mr. Almanar, and Francisco 4.
We have 4.
If Dexter is there, then we have 5.
Okay, so if we have 5 members present, Dexter is, I mean, he's there. We see him, but he hasn't voted. So if we have 5 members present, then we have quorum.
Okay.
We have a quorum. We can continue.
Good, yes.
Okay. Okay. Next, so Dante, how many liquor license applications do we have?
Yes. 3 SLA applications.
3 SLA applications?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And as the chair had mentioned before, the committee didn't have a quorum.
Okay. All right. So let's do this. Let's move on to the next item. Let's actually create the agenda. And we'll identify whether we want to include, we'll see if we want to include those items. So for next week, Tuesday, we will have call to order.
Don't go too fast.
We are going to have rules of conduct. No, I'm sorry, public session. I'm sorry, we're in the public session. So public session. We will have presentations. Dante, presentations. Who do we have queued up?
Only person confirmed is Deborah Kirshner from Prospect Park Alliance.
Okay, Prospect Park Alliance. Okay.
And then
SLA applications.
Dante, you were saying something?
yeah, I was going to also just say that I did send an email out to individual who was looking to speak before the board in previous months, but the agenda was too long. And until she responds, that's just kind of up in limbo.
Okay, thanks.
Well, listen, if she didn't respond, we're doing the agenda right now. So just Prospect Park Alliance right now. Okay. Then we have SLA applications.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We will review them at the board. We'll review them at the board then. And Dante, please pass all the information with respect to the applications and just include that as part of the agenda. After that, we have public commentary.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we have, acknowledgements.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we will go into the business session. In the business session, we will have roll call.
Mm-hmm.
We will then have approval of minutes from last month.
Got it.
After that, we will have minutes, committee reports. Again, I would remind all the chairs, please ensure that your written reports are submitted to the office by Dante when you need them by?
Friday.
Friday, please, preferably, by noon would be great.
Okay, by noon on Friday. If you do not have an action item that you need to discuss or an urgent item, I would ask that you keep these any verbal reports, keep them to under 1 minute. Okay. After that, we will have the we'll have the district manager's report. Then we will have the chairman's report.
Mm-hmm.
And the chairman's report will include nominations,
Mm-hmm.
Women's History Month resolution, and we will have district fair.
Got it.
Are the women getting a cruise to the Bahamas?
If only I could. If only I could. But we're voting on this fair, so unfortunately the budget is dried up for that. Okay, then we're going to go on to voting items.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that'll be the fair budget.
Mm-hmm.
It will be the affordable housing
Forum. Mm-hmm.
What else did we approve?
The transportation, will we be voting on that one?
And the street co-naming.
Okay, right.
Yeah, street co-naming.
What do you call it?
The street co-naming.
Oh, good. Okay, I thought you said co-naming. I got co-naming. Okay, good.
Okay. I think that was the last article along with whatever I have under my chairman's report.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then after that we have unfinished business. Then we will have new business and then adjournment.
Oh, man.
Almost there. Almost there.
Wait,
All right.
wait.
Are there any? Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. I got it. All right, I got it.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, the Women's History Month is not really a voting item, right?
It is. It's a resolution that we would need to vote on as a board. Yes.
Because I had it up there before, but then by the time you get to voting items, I only had 3. Okay, got it.
Yeah, what? I'll explain it as part of my chairman's report. So
Okay,
yeah, that's
right.
fine.
That's why I got it under that. So I wanted to make sure that it's there.
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely. You're good. You're good. All right. Are there any items that are missing that we need to add to the agenda?
And then adjournment, right?
I'm sorry?
And after
Yes,
new
and then
business adjournment.
Correct. Okay. Are there any items that need to be added to this agenda? Or do we need any changes we need to make?
You ever do a treasury?
Just want sorry, Pat, go ahead.
I just want to know, you ever do a treasury report? You always talk about the budget, but I don't even know who the person is on the executive committee because I never hear of a report.
Dexter Roberts is
Treasury
the
report.
treasurer.
Who is it? Who's the person?
Dexter Roberts. Dexter Roberts.
Well, they need to get down to business.
Last month, didn't he give a report last month?
I think he was scheduled. There was a report, a preliminary report he gave either January or February.
February. I think in February he gave
Yeah,
a
there was a
preliminary
partial report that was, yeah, there was a report that was given.
Yeah.
And right, because I never saw him since.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask Beverly if we could make an amendment to her forum.
Well,
Since she's having it in May, and then she said that she haven't set a date as yet.
Well, no,
And,
we approved it as date to be determined.
And date to be
Yeah.
determined. Yeah. So I
We
was just
approved it,
thinking that
correct.
since you say any changes, if we could make an amendment and do what is her forum called?
It's it's for affordable housing. It's an affordable housing forum.
So I was wondering if she could do the affordable and Know Your Rights forum, Know Your Housing Rights forum.
Okay. Well, listen,
We're
let's do
planning
that.
to already have that included in the agenda and is part of the event until you said it. So,
Okay.
so we're
Well,
planning to include that.
okay. And here's what we can do. If you need to amend it, we can take that, and when we vote on the item, we can amend it there to alter the title if we need to. So if we need to make changes, we can do it there.
No. We keep the title, Fred. Thank you.
Fair enough. But any case, all I'm saying is any changes can be done from the floor. We can do it from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Are there any other changes that need to be made or adds or edits to the agenda? Okay. Seeing none. All those members in favor of the agenda as stated, please say aye.
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 Are there any members? Thank you. Are there any members? Oh, Dexter, as long as we got you. I'm sorry. Let's finish the vote and then we'll get you for something else. Any members in opposition? Please say no. Or please state your name for the record. Please record none in opposition. Any members who wish to abstain from this vote, please say aye. State your name for the record. Please record no members abstained. The agenda has been adopted. Dexter, we had you as an abstention for the vote for the street co-naming. Did you want to change? Did you want to abstain, or did you want to vote yes or no?
I would abstain.
Okay, so
no, I'll vote
okay, we have
in the affirmative.
Oh, you want to vote in the affirmative? Okay.
Yeah.
So Dexter voted in the affirmative for the street co-naming. Please,
All
please
right.
ensure
So
that the minutes reflect.
okay. So let me recorrect. So now, the final vote for the street co-naming is 6 in favor, 1 opposition, no abstentions.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
And do you have, Mr. Chair? Do you have treasurer's report as part of the agenda?
I do not. We do not. Dexter, did you want to give a treasurer's report, or do you want to defer till May? Your choice.
You mean tonight?
Oh,
at the general
At the
meeting.
general meeting.
At the general
I
meeting.
can.
Okay, you would like to do one?
If you want me to do it, then I have no choice to do it.
I mean, if you're prepared. I mean, listen, if you don't do it this month, you can do it in May as well. I mean, you tell us what you're prepared.
So
we haven't had a treasurer's report for 2 months.
It's getting ridiculous. He needs to do
So we
one.
need a
Everybody's
treasurer's
talking
report.
about money. Everybody's talking about
Okay,
money.
sure.
Okay. So listen, just get your report prepared. We will amend the agenda to add your treasurer's report at the meeting.
As part of the committee reports, right after that, you want me to mention
Right after
treasurer's
that. No,
report?
at the meeting. At the meeting, we will make the change. We'll move to make the change to the agenda
Okay, all right.
at the full board.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so Dexter, so just work with Dante, just get whatever you need to do, and we'll make the we'll make the amendment to the agenda, and we'll add you in on Tuesday.
Sure.
Okay, all right then. Are there any other? Well, actually, I think that's it. 'Cause we've already voted, so I think we've reached the end of our agenda. I want to thank everyone for hanging in. This is a long one. I want to thank you, but actually, before we go off, let me just say this real quickly. We need to stay focused when we're in these meetings, okay? Because this is a point that was brought up before. When we're asking the questions, when I call, we're taking a limited amount of questions. We can't have like 19 different questions. If it's a point of there's just really not enough information, then perhaps we don't have enough information and we need to do something else otherwise. But because we have a jam-packed agenda, we can't afford to spend 30 minutes to 40 minutes on every item, okay? So make sure we're coming in, we're focused, we have the questions we have, we ask one question, maybe a follow-up question, but we need to make sure we're moving the agenda, we continue. All right. But otherwise, but let me just finish and say thank you everyone for hanging in. Thank you for all the work that you do. Thanks for all the hard work the committees are doing. For the chairs, if you are having issues with attendance, please go through your rosters and identify those members who need to be removed. And you just send an email to the district office and myself, and we will take it from there. But we want to make sure. We want to continue to push. Please make sure any ideas or resources or anything you need with respect to this fair, please make sure you send it as quickly as you can to the district office and myself. If you need assistance in terms of contacts, let us know. If you have, if you have specific points of contacts on your committees that need to be a part of these conversations, let us know. But you'll see a lot of communications. We're going to be pushing very hard to make this event a success, which I'm sure it will be. Everyone, thanks again. I wish you all the best. Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, before you go, I was just thinking, because I look at this agenda, and if tonight, let me see, 7 things, we took 3 hours. I was wondering if when it comes to the committee's report, majority of us here have already stated our case and, you know, asked our questions. Would it not be favorable to the whole committee that those questions are not repeated at the general meeting? Because that takes up a lot of time. We've already asked and we've already got questions. I would wonder if the committee people or the people on this meeting forego asking questions, and maybe, you know, our community, there are some people in the committee who just love to give us trouble. Let those be the ones that we will more concentrate on and sort of, you know, control to a little bit, but not ask the same questions that we asked of the same committee people as we did tonight. Because like if you look at Chris's committee, we all of us ask the same things, the same questions all the time he comes. So, you know, maybe we could all look at that and say we've already got our answers. So leave that space for the other people who might not, and we just be quiet and see if we could cut down some time, because people would get a little bit annoyed. Even on this committee, even on this meeting, people just went off before even saying good night.
No, understood, and I think it's a point well taken.
And
this
I
call.
also have a suggestion to shorten this meeting. This last part of making the agenda, my suggestion would be share the screen, because most of these items are agenda repeat itself every month. Have it posted on the screen for everybody to see. Only add the portion that I know. Like so that way, if it's posted, everybody can read it. It's following a specific format, and all you need to do is to make the new changes to the stuff that's already there. As it is posted, you just tap, okay, this is part of the agenda. What do we need to add? And then you add them. That will shorten the time to me. That's what makes sense to me.
Point taken. We can definitely use that. But I think it's also going to come down again. I think we go a little bit long, which is not necessarily a bad thing on the committee reports, because this is the one opportunity for the exec to really hear what everybody's doing. So it goes a little bit longer, you know. Of course, obviously, one of the things we want to do is work on being succinct. So if we have written reports, it's a matter of people get the written reports. All you're doing is updating people or just highlighting the big things in terms of what we have. But But those are the conversations we'll have with all the chairs, and definitely at the board meeting as well. We're not going to rehash things that are already on written reports that the district office is already going to get out to everyone. So read the reports. If you have a question or two, that maybe 1 or 2 we can entertain, but we're not going to have full dialogue. Otherwise, bring it to the committee meetings. But yeah, we're going to definitely be working on ways to kind of shorten things. But again, I'm counting on the chairs, unless you have something really pressing at this time to say, your report speaks for itself. Okay, the reports speak for themselves. The action items we'll deal with, and we'll get it done. Okay, and I guess really the last point is, and I'm going to depend on the chairs, especially to model this. We raise our hands. I will recognize. We're going to create the speakers list, but when we shut the speakers list, and I'm probably going to have to be a little bit more forceful about this. I'm going to call for hands. Put your hand up. When I call the end of the speakers list, that's the end of the speakers list, and we move on. Okay. All right. But with that, it is now 10:40. Again, thank you everyone for all the hard work you do. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Francisco Leopold. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Nicholas Almanor. Any objections? Hearing none, we stand adjourned. Time is now 10:40. Everyone take care. Stay blessed.
We had a meeting for 3 hours and 45 minutes.
That's
Have a
exhausting.
great night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.